Hello, friends. All right, let's talk about the Ironborn, part 17 of our deep dive into the Iron. No, I'm kidding.
Ironborn, part
I'm
17.
kidding. Clearly, the appetite for the Ironborn, Tim, is not what it once was. For I have released a couple videos this week that YouTube decided not to show some of y'all. So in case you missed it, there are two new Ironborn videos this week that are edited from last week's live stream, and they are Driftwood Kings and Empire of the Grey King. If you missed those, YouTube is suddenly decided that people must be tired of. I mean, Rhaegar tried to warn me, right? He was like, "4. I don't know if people really want 4 Ironborn videos, Dave." Anyways, we got some House of the Dragon news. We were here to roast Tywin. Originally, we did Ares a couple weeks ago, but look at this. It's a House of the Dragon trailer. Oh my, demonetized, copyrighted. No, I've watched like 5 different YouTubers slide through this trailer, and it seems to be okay. So here we are. We are here to talk about House of the Dragon. Tim, my friend Greywaste Tim, at my side. We've both got our maroon shirts on. I went with the standard, dragon. Tim, what do you got on?
I got the Weirwood.
That's right. It's no longer the North remembers. The new phrase is remember the North. It does exist. It potentially House of the Dragon looks like they will be playing up the role of the North a little bit. Not a surprise. That Jace Winterfell trip will probably last all season. And we've got a couple of hints that we might get a little detour to the Wall, maybe some whites, or just some sort of reminder that the White Walkers exist to tie into Aegon's prophecy. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about this damn cargo net that's been hanging over Nana Vagar's neck for how many years do you think? How old is that bloody cargo net? It looks like it's grown into her scales and stuff. Like, that thing's at least 2 decades old, I say. That's maybe that might have, like, who put that there? Did Visenya I mean, it's a pretty good way to climb on the dragon, honestly. It beats the Dune method of using the spear and then hanging on for dear life as the worm rotates its wound away from the sand. And then you hook, things at its nostrils to steer it. I think the cargo net works better, but maybe if Aemond had the nostril hooks, he could have controlled Nana. Nope, nobody can control Nana Vagar. Sorry, Luke. Man, we're still processing that, aren't we, Tim?
Viserys said it best. The idea that we control the dragons is an illusion.
He did say that. In my interview with King Viserys, he said that in response to the I was asking him about the tapestries, and the dragon fornication, and he said the idea that we control the dragons, it's an illusion. So, all right, guy. Oh boy, this is exciting. So here's what we're gonna do. This will be no spoilers for a little bit, and then we'll go to spoilers, where we talk as though we have read Fire and Blood and know what's going on. It is kind of more fun to talk about it, no spoilers, though. Because, of course, Fire and Blood gives you many options for everything that happened, and the showrunners don't have to stick with any of those and can put their own scenes in and change it, and the show canon's a little different, so we don't know. We do think also, Tim and I have been talking about certain events that may get moved around from season to season, so some stuff might be slightly out of order, because, of course, the Fire and Blood narrative, everything's kind of happening at the same time. And we're sort of bouncing around and hearing about this stuff, but it's all developing simultaneously. So, yeah, sometimes there is a little lag at the very beginning of the stream, but usually that clears out after a couple minutes. And no, it will be no spoilers for a while. And you guys can do what you want in the chat. That's fine. But as far as Tim and I go, we will not instantly start talking about how people die, 3 seasons from now and stuff like that. Because that's just not fun. So, without further ado, let's rip into this. And of course, we're a couple days. It came out yesterday. We both had a chance to sit with it. So it's not our first reaction. I feel like I know what's going on in all the trailers, so I'll try to bring you the good information. Watched a couple streams, saw Tony Teflon, Alt-Shift-X, Gray Area, all chopping it up. It's good to see all the familiar faces back. So we're going to go through scene by scene, and we're going to use these scenes to discuss the plot points, because obviously most of you guys have probably watched a breakdown video by now. We know what the scenes are, but we're going to use those to, talk about what's coming in season 2, because that's kind of the interesting thing here. We're going to pick through the full trailer, but I can't just play it end to end. So, Tim, I guess your initial thoughts on the trailer. Are you fired up? Looks good? Looks, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, because I watched the trailer a couple of times, had to watch it and had to half the speed on YouTube a little bit so I could try and catch every little scene and be like, okay, what's going on here? What's going on here? And then to prep for the stream, I also went back to Fire and Blood and I reread the sections on Sun for a Sun and the Red and Gold Dragon. And I feel like based on the scenes we're getting in this teaser trailer, it seems like the majority of what we're going to get is going to cover those two sections. Now, obviously, that's not to say that they're going to stick solely with that. Once we get more into the meat of this teaser, we can see they are going to be going further ahead, just a little bit, because we do get a scene of a potential dragon seed looking up at a dragon flying by, and in the book, the dragon seeds don't come till later. But it seems for the most part it is going to be in those two sections from the dance.
Actually, the dragon seeds, when I listened to it last night as well. I did the audiobook, and it looks to me like the dragon seeds would come during season 2, because that comes before this battle. That there's a certain battle that would be at the end of season 2 that they have moved to season 3, and that is part of the 10 episodes being trimmed down to 8. The dragon seeds comes before that battle, Tim. So potentially it should be this season. And I also feel like they were setting it up last season, with Daemon talking about how many wild dragons there were on Dragonstone. So I tend to think the dragon seeds will be this year.
Yeah, I'm staying in the book chapters. They show up in a later section of the book. So they're going to be meshing parts. So while they're going to be covering mostly Sun for a Sun and Red and Gold Dragon sections of the dance, they're also going to be taking bits from Rhaenyra Triumphant, which is when we get our book introduction to the dragon seeds. Because in order to make this cohesive, they are going to have to bring them in earlier than when they initially show up in the book.
And yes, it does look like sea smoke. We'll get to that scene, but the other dragon on the beach. So, and of course, the fun thing is that the main thing I want to say is just that, we should entertain a certain amount of doubt. They can move events around in the war to tell the narrative. They can choose which events they want to show. Just like in the books. Some of the last chapters of one book are taking, some of the first chapters of Winds will take place before a couple of the last chapters of Dance. So, similar kind of thing here. And that just makes it more fun because we could be surprised. We don't know exactly what we'll get with each season. So, and even when you kind of know what's coming, sometimes things still surprise you, like a big Nana dragon flying out of the clouds when you least expect it. Chomp! Chomp! Rest in peace, Luke. Chomp! The Chomp! As it will be known, Lady Lil's thoughts on the show focusing more on the conflict between Alicent and Rhaenys rather than the male characters, Alicent and Rhaenyra. The first place that I read this story was in a novella called The Princess and the Queen, Tim. So I'd say that the books also frame it as centered around Alicent and Rhaenyra. I don't think that's different, personally. And I think Daemon gets plenty of, they use him a lot as a promo, too. I don't know. So, I don't have intense thoughts about that. That seems like a lot of hand-wringing because I don't know. Any possibility that Laenor will come back as a fake... Well, we're going to talk about the whole Laenor Adam thing for sure. We're going to crack that whole thing open. That's a big one on the agenda. I'm just trying to get it back. I washed it today, and it's like it's kind of coming forward. I might have to ponytail it up if it gets too annoying. Okay, let's go to the trailer. So, I'm sorry, Tim. Your initial thoughts. I feel like I must have interrupted you before you got to your emotional climax, if you will.
Oh no! You had asked me. I said my initial thoughts were where I think the story, what I think events are going to be covered. As for how I personally feel, I'm super excited. We'll get to it when we actually start going in depth and start breaking this down scene by scene of what my opinion is on what I think's and what I think this is correlating to and what I think might happen. I do have some. I don't know. Like I'm trying to make like more like an educated guess of what they're gonna do with these scenes, but we don't know until we know. We're just here to try and break it down and see what we're gonna cover, what it is we think we're gonna see, and where we might be leaving off.
There you go. So you went right into the weeds was the answer. You skipped right over
exactly.
that. That's okay, Tim. We love you. There is a lot of fun in the weed stuff to discuss. Fortunately for us YouTubers, it's not just, well, there's going to be a big fight. No, there's some stuff to hash out. So we're starting off with the emotion. The first several cuts are all about the same thing. The chomp. Luke has just died. This is the first tragedy of the war. And so we see Rhaenyra staring at Storm's End. She's probably come to recover the body or something along those lines. And she's looking at Storm's End. And that is the face of someone who's just lost a child. Obviously, Emma Darcy, incredible actor. We're in for a whole lot more of that throughout this season. They picked somebody, like, I was thinking about Emilia Clarke yesterday. Emilia Clarke is a very nice and radiantly positive person. And the only time I bought her as angry is when she spoke in Valyrian. Like, when she spoke in Valyrian, it changed her enough to, like, I could believe that she was angry. But it was, and I guess that's kind of part of Daenerys, is that she is this sweet little girl who knows little of the ways of war, but has this dragon or whatever. Emma Darcy, like, is built to portray this sort of conflict and sorrow. So I won't go on and on, but I just think we're going to see a lot of strong acting performances from Emma going forward.
I would agree. I mean, playing the role of a grieving mother, and it also depends on like what way they're going to go with this again. Because when we think back to Fire and Blood, and we're given 3 different perspectives, and then we get 3 different ways in which she reacted to Luke's death. But here, once we get Fire and Blood, they either have to pick one or make an amalgamation of what happened. But I think they really are going to go with the absolute worst kind of grief that a mother could show. And that's why her showing up like personally at Storm's End the way it looks like in this scene, which is something that we did not hear about happening in the books. If she is going to confront Boros Baratheon about what happened, that's a whole different direction.
Yeah, I could even see her like flying close to the castle and looking at the beach where it happened, but not actually going there, or who knows. Definitely feel like Rhaenyra doesn't use her dragon enough in the books, and they are fixing that in the show. She is, if not charging into battle, she will at least be moving around a bit more, as we saw in the first season. I also really liked how we talked about this, of course, last year, but I really like how they played the thing with Aemond and Luke, where it was like kind of an accident, but still clearly Aemond's responsibility, where he's being aggressive and he's pushing and he's taunting, but not intending it to go as far. I made the comparison of like high school bullies. They think they're having good-natured bully fun, and all of a sudden somebody's dead, and it's like, oh shit, we did that. So I think that's kind of the thing with Luke. And as we discussed, Aemond is probably going to come back to King's Landing and just take credit for it, as if he meant to do it, because that portrays more strength, and he wouldn't want to admit that he couldn't control Vhagar. Maybe he'll tell someone in confidence, either Helena or his mother or something like that. But for the most part, he will take credit for it. And in the books, of course, we saw something along those lines where Alicent is horrified at what Aemond has done, and Aegon is like, "That's dope, dude. Nice job." So we'll probably see something along those lines, I would guess. But obviously, Rhaenyra is not happy. Your thoughts, Tim?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see Aemond, for his part, putting on a front, owning it, and as that makes him look strong, it puts on a strong demeanor, but behind closed doors, having it actually be eating him up inside. And then, as you said, like, Alicent's going to be horrified initially by it. Otto Hightower, the line from the book is, "You only lost one eye. How could you be so blind?" Which probably will be translated as a show line. It's too good of a line not to write into the script. But yeah, but Aegon the Second calls it a good beginning. So you kind of see, like, and this is where we left off when we talked about the end of season 1. When they crowned Aegon, and we kind of see his personality shift, where he starts loving the attention. And then that's when Alicent and Otto, the slow horror dawning on their faces as they realize, like, oh God, we're never going to be able to control him now. So I think that's going to be a good juxtaposition by having Alicent and Otto be horrified and angry over what Aemond did, versus Aegon praising it and calling it a good beginning. We're going to see that fracture starting to happen already between Aegon and his grandfather.
Yeah, and we saw as soon as they stuck that crown on his head and gave him that sword to wave in front of the crowd, that they opened up a whole can of worms that they are not necessarily prepared to handle. But that's kind of the thing about this story, is that these high lords are pushing their children into the Game of Thrones as pawns and pieces. Sometimes that's a 12-year-old girl, like little Laena, getting potentially offered up to an old man, or middle-aged. I guess it's the same age as me. I'm called myself an old man. That sucks. Anyway, to a 12-year-old girl, it's very uncomfortable, okay? So that's one way in which we see the High Lords pushing their children to the Game of Thrones. And when I say good-natured bully fun, I'm being very sarcastic. I was picked on in school, so I just make sure everyone that came across the right way. I'm very anti-bullying. Or sometimes the pushing your kids into the Game of Thrones can mean sending your teenagers off on a dragon to fight in wars and murder people and stuff. So you can stick crowns on their head and tell them to be political pawns. These are still teenagers and kids and young adults, nearly a man grown, whatever you want to call it. And throughout, when I was listening back to the next section of Fire and Blood yesterday, just like you did, Tim, I sort of forgot like how quick the kids get into like committing atrocities and very questionable acts, and like, you see all this. They talk about the corrupting influence of power, right? It's like, well, power in some senses, it reveals character, but it's also putting gasoline on whatever character traits a person may have, or empowering them, I guess we could say. And so with all this second generation of people, the kids, the young dragon riders, especially on Team Green, they are coming of age and being handed all this responsibility and power, and they all react in different ways. And so that's like very central with Aegon's plot, but it's also relevant to basically everyone else that's involved with this. And we're supposed to notice that, just like we weep for Arya's innocence as we watch her become an assassin and stuff. Like, it's cool. Yeah, she's an assassin girl, but it's also like a child that's losing her childhood at the age of 10. So it's something that we weep for as well. And it's the same thing with all these next generation of kids. It's the adults don't have control. And maybe that's a parallel with not controlling the dragons, right? They don't control the dragons. They don't control their children. And they're trying to fight these wars. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hectic.
And then with this scene right here, like we've heard heavy is the head that wears the crown. But right here, I would say heavy is the crown that wears the head. That crown is ridiculously big for him. It looks like it looks like he's one misstep away from the crown sliding down his head and ending up around his neck like a choker. And I think they're doing that purposefully. The fact that he doesn't look like he's wearing the crown right is, I think, is like a symbolic way of saying he's not fit to be king. You're muted.
They've made it very brutish looking. You know, it looks a little bit like Aegon's crown, like with all the square cut rubies have fallen out. That's kind of what it looks like. I'm not sure if that was intentional or if, because in the books he does wear Aegon the Conqueror's crown.
Yeah, but the thing is like, you got to get those things resized. Because that looks like a pot. It's not easy. Yeah, that's like a pot with a lid that doesn't fit on quite right. Like, this thing's going to boil over and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, and I think that they're, you know, in the books and the show, they're both working with this idea of there are these little symbols that judge the characters, not just Rhaenyra and Aegon, but there are a lot of little portents and omens that tell you the truth about some of these characters. Kind of like Tywin Lannister dying on the toilet and then stinking up his own funeral. It's like that's a message. That's symbolism. Okay, so I skipped ahead a little bit because I just want to show this other Aegon picture, but let's go back in order. So this obviously is Aegon assuming the throne. We saw his somewhat troubled, inauguration, if you will. It's ruined by a little bit of dragon murder. But here he is taking the throne. He's got, 3 out of 7 Kingsguard. That's not bad. Then we've got Daemon.
A couple of other nameless mooks.
What's that?
I said a couple of other nameless mooks, because between him and the Kingsguard, they're those two guys. We don't know exactly who they are, but we could assume that they're probably some kind of cronies or lickspittles that are walking with him.
Hightower flunkies. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So then we got Daemon with his very cool dragon helm, which I like. I heard somebody dissing it. I dig it. It's got the horse head looking dragon on there, which I dig. Love the shoulder rondels too. And then here, this looks like a Targaryen camp. All the tents are black. And over on the left here, there's like some shale or something like that. So this could be Dragonstone, I was thinking. What do you think?
Yeah, that I'm not sure, because, this could be them leaving Dragonstone. When we go back to where we left off in season 1, when Daemon's making his war plans, he initially wants to take Harrenhal first. But there is going to be the moment where they have to leave Dragonstone and start heading to the Riverlands before he can make that happen.
So yeah, that's what I took it, because we see right before that we see Daemon putting on his gear. So I just take it to be these two scenes look connected. Was that?
I said this is like him getting ready to leave.
Yeah, it seems like it. And then counterpoint, we've got the very diverse Hightower army, which apparently has some Valerians in it, or maybe there's just now more black people in Westeros, which is cool. But yeah, there's like three black people here right in the front row of the army. So the diverse Hightower army marching up the road. Now let's take a minute to talk about this. We have not seen Daeron yet, the 4th child of Viserys and Alicent, but the showrunners have clarified he's in Old Town. And of course, he's got a pretty big role to play. Thank you, James. I appreciate you. I'm not going to sing that yet. My voice isn't warmed up for it, but I appreciate you. So, got some Nana Vagar reading Rhaegar lyrics. Yeah, I said shale. I don't know if it's shale. It looks like some kind of, I don't know. It looks like volcanic rock. I'm not a geologist. I'd like to have a geologist on, though. I've got geology questions, actually. Anyways, don't get me started on the Ironborn. So here we've got, yeah, I guess that's true, Jasmine. Old Town is a port city. It would make more sense that it would be a more diverse place. It's the most international city in Westeros, King's Landing and Old Town. So yeah, that's a good point. So then So Daeron is in Old Town. He is the youngest son. He is a teenager. I think he's 15 or so, 14 or 15. He has a dragon. That's Tessarion, the Cobalt Queen, right? Is that the name? Cobalt Queen. So stunningly blue dragon, stunningly beautiful blue dragon, not very big. And he's an important character because when this war starts, he's in Old Town. And of course, the Hightower faction in King's Landing, you don't have to read Fire and Blood to figure out, like, they're going to want to bring up the army from Old Town. But there's many miles between Old Town and King's Landing. And so this army, the Hightower army, we can assume, is marching into the field from Old Town. What will happen to them on the way? What fun adventures will befall them? But Daeron will be with that army. And that is a big thing because that's a dragon rider and a dragon. So he's not easily replaced. Like, the whole story would fall out differently if there's not a dragon rider with the Hightower army. And we should expect that there will be. Isn't that right, Tim?
Yeah, because I had said, like, when we were talking before the stream, that I think this scene here will probably be our introduction to Daeron. He has been fostering at Old Town, essentially. He at the beginning of the war, he is a squire. He is a squire for Aemond Hightower, who is now the Lord of Old Town. That would be Otto Hightower's nephew, Alicent's cousin. So kind of, sort of an uncle to him, but yeah, he's squiring for Aemond Hightower. And yeah, this scene with the Hightower marching does seem like when would be the best way to introduce him and Tessarion. And yeah, Tessarion is the Blue Queen. It's a beautiful blue she-dragon that he rides, and it's going to be with his uncle Aemond Hightower, that he's going to earn his spurs eventually.
Yeah, so, and that's something that is if you read the Fire and Blood narrative, he doesn't really do much until what would be the beginning of season 3, but I'm guessing that perhaps that could be bumped up. Him getting knighted or just introduced in some way. I would say this season probably, but we shall see. When we either, Tim and I are going to reread the Fire and Blood for you guys in our normal reread fashion sometime here soon. So we will go through all the various permutations of how they could go compared to the book. So let's keep going with the trailer. So here we have an army that we're going to see a couple times in the trailer. So this is House Stokeworth and Rosby. Stokeworth is the lamb, and Rosby is the red bendies, or whatever they're called. Chevrons, yeah, like the gas station. I guess I could have remembered that. So yeah, this is an army. These two houses are in the Crown Lands. So they are close to King's Landing, and they will be involved in some of the first battles. So then we've got Otto and Alicent, and there's a voiceover here, by the way. Alicent is saying, or Otto is saying, the first quote is, it's a great Otto. Go ahead.
Mistakes were made. Like, that's way to really downplay it, Otto.
Well, it's that famous passive voice thing. A man was killed. While in police custody. Oh, well, who killed him? Oh, the police killed him. So it's like, mistakes were made. Errors were made in the hours following King Viserys' death. That's one way to say we kind of did a coup. And we let the king's body rot in the room for several days. Some mistakes were made. I'm not sure by who, but somebody. So I love Otto. Otto is very much like modern politician, He could be the Speaker of the House or something like that.
You, Damon. Mistakes were made by you.
How do you think the time skips from the show will affect the show's story compared to Fire and Blood? Well, we're not going to have any more time skips. So whatever wounds that we had to deal with, we're over that now. The exculpatory tense. Past tense, future tense, exculpatory tense. The passive voice, technically, is what that is. But yeah. So here we go. So yeah, errors were made. Then Alicent is saying, the war will be fought, many will die, and the victor will eventually ascend the throne. That's just sort of framing season 2 for us, essentially. Now, this one, do you have any guesses about this? This looks like Driftmark or Dragonstone, potentially, but you can't really tell who is there or what they're doing. This could be Eric and Arik. No, that's more of a secret mission thing, which we're not going to spoil what that is, but yeah, any guesses about this? It's just some boats. Dragon seeds, maybe.
If it is Driftmark, where we left off with season 1 is Rhaenys is doing patrols up and down the gullet, and Corlys Velaryon has essentially blockaded the Narrow Sea with his navy, and that is just pissing the Triarchy off, because we gotta remember, even though Kragus Crabfeeder is dead, but that's just the Mirish head that's been cut off. The Lyseni and the Tyroshi are still there, and they're just getting angrier and angrier and angrier because Corlys's actions have essentially interrupted trade for all of the free cities. So that, we got to remember that the Triarchy is still going to be a thing. So Driftmark and the naval blockade would have to be a plot point somewhere in this season. So if this is Driftmark, this could be part of that.
This is the Battle of the Gullet. They saved some money. They scaled it down. This is the Battle of the Gullet. Originally, it had 90 ships from Pentos and a whole Valerian fleet, but they just went with those 3 canoes. No, it's not. It could be dragon seeds. It could be some dragon seed action for sure. And then here we go, Kristen. So I got to shout out Tony and Gray and Phil the Issues guy, whose stream I watched yesterday. Kelly Johnson with a PayPal, by the way. Why did Nana Vagar crash Tony Teflon's stream? Look, Nana Vagar does what she wants. I don't control Nana Vagar, so I don't know why you're asking me about that. And then asking about Nettles. We'll get to Nettles. But Gray Area joked that Kristen Cole got his hand chain from Shen. From Temu. This is the Temu.
Oh, yeah, I saw her
chain
tweet
of
from Temu.
They don't, the crown's not very good. I wonder if that's intentional. Are they just showing us that the greens are just like busters and all their stuff is not good?
I'm willing to give them the benefit of doubt that the crown thing is intentional to show how unfit Aegon is for king, but I'm not so sure with Kristen Cole here. That might just be bad costume design. I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Tony who zoomed in on Allison's butt for 5 minutes in this one. He's like, Allison got the booty. He's all zooming in on it. I love Tony. Every time I think that some of my content is too off the rails, I watch one of Tony's streams. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm fine. Keeping it real. So here we go. With his discount hand chain, we've got the beginning of. We're gonna see a lot of this. Executing the traitors. The traitors will pay. Those who swore to the greens or the blacks, whomever I am not, will pay. The retribution is a sure sign of bad leadership. Instead of actually doing something to strike the enemy, you turn to retribution. We saw that with Stannis when he was on Dragonstone at the beginning, and they're all like, well, what are we going to do? And somebody's like, well, let's go attack, was it Celtigar or one of his vassal houses that didn't bend the knee quick enough or whatever. And he's like, let's go kill them. And he's like, why would we do that? That doesn't really help. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, my memory's not. Do you remember? Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Well, there's a couple that happen in quick succession, which To be honest, I think if I were to say, would be going into spoiler territory. Just like the people are asking who he's executing here. I have guesses, but to say might count as spoiler territory, so I'm not even sure if I should say it just yet, or if I
Yeah,
should wait till later in the stream.
probably wait on that. Yeah, but yeah, it's only guesses too. It's hard to say. The point is, there will be a lot of people that get executed and punished by both sides. It is the Celtigars, yeah. So yeah, it's like punish somebody who didn't. It's like in a civil war between two people that both claim to have a right to the throne. Everyone else is in a bad position because it's like, well, who do you obey? And like the other side's going to take you for a traitor. So then as this thing goes down, you see like, because Rhaenyra and Aegon's allies, it's not north versus south. They're all over the place. So there's a lot of local conflicts that spill into this war, and it gets very messy. And yeah, there's a lot of execution. So here we see Kristen. Somebody mentioned the hollow eyes. Yeah, he's playing the part well. Chop. Of course, remember, Ned Stark chops people's heads off too, so that's the kind of world that we're in. And then we've got this spinning ball. This is Aegon. Not the same scene. This is a small council. This is the throne room. But you just picture him in the small council meeting, like just bored, right? Spinning the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's playing with it like a toy, like it's a top.
Yeah. Which I'll play it live real quick.
And the victim.
There you go. Demonetized.
Yep. You dumb on it. Yeah. Copyright.
I turned the sound off at least. But yeah, it's cool. And of course, I have one of those. I'll go get it in a minute. But I'm the king. I get to talk. I have a Septarian ball. So now the contrast here. Definitely wearing it a little better. Say what you want about this crown. It looks a little modern. I like it. It's a little modern, but it's cool. And
yeah.
But she wears it well. And the dress is fabulous. The Cyrax shoulder patches, so that's pretty dope. We'll have Heidi from Costume Co. on sometime to talk about it. And oh, that reminds me.
Because Aegon II is wearing Aegon the Conqueror's crown. So he's wearing a crown that's more than a century old at this point, whereas Rhaenyra is wearing her father's crown. That's the crown of King Viserys, so that is more recently made, which is probably why it looks more modern, and probably why it fits better too.
Well, yeah, we'll get to right now she is being presented as the more worthy monarch as far as the symbolism goes. We'll see if that holds up. Correction from before. Alt-Shift-X. Oh, what's going on here? Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, everyone knows I'm a big fan of Alt-Shift-X, so. And he is very complimentary of some of my theories, too, which I take as a compliment. But sticking to House of the Dragon. And we've got little Alicent blowing out the candle of hope. That's what this is. This is the flame of hope. Phew, it's extinguished. That's it. And I do have to wonder, Tim, like, given that they've done so much work with the relationship between Alicent and Rhaenyra, it wouldn't surprise me if they conspired to put them in the same room so that they can have some conversations that maybe didn't take place in the book. What do you think about that? Some sort of secret meeting where they try to work out a peace agreement. It almost can, but then they can't, or something like that.
Yeah, that is possible. They got with a lot of the gaps in between the story. They do have a lot of room to fill in things like that happening. And it would be nice to see them in the same room together before, at least one last time, before all hell breaks loose. because like you said, like before, it seems like they're going to have Rhaenyra be a lot more hands-on. In the book, she was more or less commanding from her chair, but here Rhaenyra is going to be in the thick of it. We're going to see a lot more of her out there, out in the field, out doing things, being more present, being more personable, and bringing Cyrax out a lot more, because Cyrax kind of just stood around for the most part as far as the story goes. The least utilized dragon.
Just real quickly, I want to welcome all our new squishers. Doshi and Marie, hologram head. And a couple others. Let's see, I got that one. Thank you, Soapy Woods Witch. And there we go.
Squish.
So nice to be able to just do that now. Did you see that, Minty Maelstrom? Did you see that? This is a new thing that I can do. I can just click a little drop down and see all the super chats right there. It's almost like they could have been doing that the whole time. Anyway, moving along. So here we have Abukar Salim, who is cast as Alan of Hull. If you watched Raised by Wolves, this is Father, the android, the male lead android. Incredible actor. Very cool on that show. Of course, he was playing an android, so I'm curious to see how he'll play a medieval Westerosi person. But this is Alan of Hull. In the books, there is Alan and Adam, and they are brothers that are close in age, that have similar but different roles in the story. So I am not sure if they are going to cast both or just collapse their role down into one. I do not know, because they do not announce all the castings ahead of time, Tim. Some of them will surprise us. They try to hide them. So, hard to say. I have a feeling since...
Oh, people in the chat are saying that's Clinton Liberty playing Adam.
Oh, really? So they did... Oh, did they cast Adam and I haven't heard about it? Because I only heard that they cast Alan. Oh, both Alan and Adam have been confirmed. Bad knowledge. I apologize. Bad YouTube host. Bad.
Yeah, and Bebe, I too thought, when I first watched the trailer, I too thought maybe that was Nettles, but then you had said, no, it's Adam. And I was like, oh, okay. It went by so quick, I totally didn't catch that, but
okay,
it's another dragon seed, definitely.
That is tremendous news, because anytime you collapse the roles, it inevitably creates problems, and those are both really cool characters. So cool, we're getting both Adam and Alan of Hull. That is sweet. So this would be Sea Smoke.
To be honest, I wouldn't even be sure how you could collapse Adam and Alan the trajectory that their story goes in. So, now, for me, I want to see it. Now, personally, I want to see as many characters as possible. I want HBO to just bite the bullet and just be like, okay, and just give them the funding they need to give us all of the characters and all the scenes. You need, because as far as I'm concerned, you need everybody. Maybe the two Toms later on you could collapse into one character, but I think for the most part, we're going to need every individual to get this story done right.
Yeah, and if anything, they should be looking to expand the roles of the characters for the TV show and not really condense them. So, yeah, I'd be shocked if Nettles wasn't cast. I mean, that just would seem very counterintuitive. So, this is one of the Hull brothers. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the way Max has been axing shows, all that money that they're saving by killing so many other shows better be going somewhere, and it better be going to the House of the Dragon budget.
This is the first thing that they're promoting now that the strike is over, so it does seem like this is their flagship right now. So this is one of the Hull boys. We'll talk more about this in the spoiler section, but obviously they, could be a Valerian connection here. That's Laenor's dragon. So we will we'll talk about that in the spoiler section. But yeah, there's something going on with Sea Smoke.
They have also confirmed.
Sorry, go ahead.
Ooh, that's a lot. So they've also confirmed Cregan, Ulf, Hugh, Alf. Ooh, that's a lot of people. Nice. I'm very happy to hear that. We're getting all those characters.
Read the list.
Where was that? Nels. They have confirmed Cregan, Ulf, Hugh, Alfred Broom, and Rickard Thorne
For this season.
for this. Oh, if they got Rickard Thorne, then that means that they're. Yep, that means that we should see Mailer too if Rickard Thorne is here. All right, all right.
Yeah. No, they got it. They're doing all that stuff. Yeah.
You get everything then.
So that means we should see, if we're going to see Ulf and Hugh this season, then we'll see Nettles too. So it's just going to be an actress. It's a no-name actress. No one's found her bio on whatever yet. No one's put it together, but yeah, they'll be here. So real quick, Laenor ran away. So the Dragon Bond, there's this big question. Someone else is eventually going to ride his dragon. So how does that work? In the books, he's dead, and then the dragon can just be claimed by someone else. So now that he's not dead on the show canon, at least as of the end of the last season, how are they going to handle this? Well, they're not going to stress about it. This is what I'm going to tell you. They're either just going to act like, he left and relinquish the dragon bond and the dragon's just free to be claimed, or they're going to tell us that he died in the Stepstones. One or the other. Right, Tim?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I had made the joke about Laenor's too far away. The dragon Wi-Fi signal has been lost. But I think the more likely answer is going to be that Laenor and Carl are going to take up service fighting in the Stepstones. Like I said, the Triarchy is still around. The Stepstones are still a hotbed. Daemon crowned himself king, but he never firmly established control. And in the years he's been home, the Stepstones have just been allowed to fall back into the chaos that the Stepstones are always in. So it seems likely that I think they'll probably just die in some skirmish early there. It might even be I could see it being one of the opening scenes to the season is just giving a quick confirmation of Laenor's death. And then that's when Sea Smoke possibly reacting to it from home. Maybe give like a dragon, like tears of a dragon from miles away.
Yeah, the point is they're not going to spend a lot of time on it. He'll either be dead or it'll just be like there's a way to relinquish the dragon bond. And the thing is that doesn't really conflict with the canon. We just know that you can't hop on somebody else's dragon. But if they want to invent a way for the dragon bond to be released, then they can. That's not, like, no one ever said there isn't. So that's probably, be one of those two things. It won't be complicated is the point. So here we have that same Stokeworth-Rosby army. They're marching through a field. Nothing bad could happen. I'm sure everything is fine. And then here we've got the Dragonstone. We got the map table. Team Black. Familiar faces. Do you remember is it Eric or Arik that they have? I don't. Doesn't matter.
Arik is with Aegon and Eric is with Rhaenyra.
Okay, so that's Arik. Can't wait for House of the Dragon 2. Thanks, Dave and Tim. You guys are awesome. On a less happy note, 1 to 10, how dark will Blood and Cheese be?
Well, we'll get there because there's a little snippet, and from the little bit we get, it looks pretty heinous.
Yeah, it's gonna be awful. Red wedding status. I mean, just think about Emma Aaron's death in season 1. They're not pulling punches. So, yeah. War Council.
A for Arik, A for Aegon. Yep, that's a good way to the AA.
Oh, okay.
Aegon Arik.
There it is.
Yep.
The voiceover here. This is an important one. Rainey says, "There's no war so hateful to the gods as a war between kin." And then finishes up later, "And no war so bloody as a war between dragons." So, this is true. So here we have Corlys. Now this one, where do you think this is happening? So earlier we saw Kristen Cole beheading someone. And this would appear Daemon's either beheading someone or he's just like taking out his anger on a stump.
That looks like a weirwood in the background, so this is
Yes.
probably Harrenhal. This is
I was
probably happening at Harrenhal.
I was guessing Harrenhal too because he shouldn't be in King's Landing anymore. The Greens have King's Landing.
Yeah.
So this is probably not the King's Landing Weirwood.
This is probably maybe somebody at Harrenhal who refused to submit, maybe, if he's killing somebody. Or it could be the slash. It's too early for the slashes in the tree.
No, he's just chopping firewood, guys. That's correct. And so here we see Daemon and Aemond sort of juxtaposed. So Aemond looking at the Iron Throne in the dark. I'll play this part live because it's cool. With the lightning behind the throne. It's very grimdark, very horror show style. Love it. It's sick. You could see like, yeah, I'd look good on that thing. Doesn't need a lot of explanation here. Just a man and a throne in the dark.
The crown will look better on me too. It'll probably actually fit.
Yeah. So, pretty fun. Love that. Just a little contemplation here. Aegon walks into the throne. What are you doing, brother? Oh,
Nothing.
just pacing in the dark, contemplating things. Nothing at all. Not planning your downfall. So then, okay. So what do you think this is? And I gotta go get Cleo. She's absolutely losing her mind. She wants to be in on this excitement. So I'm gonna mute myself, go grab Cleo, and give your thoughts on what they're doing with the North here.
Yeah. So this definitely looks like the North. And as we had said, like the North remembers, but this is remember the North exists because of how if we go to the book, the North, it takes a while for the North. And that's just the thing with the North. It takes a while. The North is so big and the North is so far away. It always takes a while to call the banners. And then when that happens, then you got the whole march south. So in the books, it's a long minute before the North actually catches up and joins the fray. But here, in order to make up for that, since Starks are such a fan favorite, I imagine that they're going to give a lot more room for that. Maybe we'll see a bit more interaction with Jace and Cregan, because we gotta remember that's where Jace is. Jace has been sent off to first treat at the Vale and then head to the North. And it's said in the books that him and Cregan get along very well. Cregan views Jace like a younger brother. So if we are to see them have some one-on-one time and get a bit more time in the North and get a better feel for who these Stark characters are, try and see like, are these like, remember your old Starks from the original show, here are the new Starks, and then we can kind of gather how similar are these to the Ned, to Bran, to Jon and Robb and all the Starks we knew of old, or are these going to be a completely different kind? Depends on how Cregan goes, because Cregan in the books is very stern. He's like an old man trapped in a young man's body is the impression that he gives off. He's 21 and yet he acts like he's lived for 50 years and wants everybody to get off his lawn.
But isn't that the Stark ethos, kinda? Like Ned's 35. He seems like
I'm 35.
Exactly. So, there was a rumor about whites. I don't know how. I don't pay attention too much to the rumors. I don't know how credible that was, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did something to remind us the White Walkers exist, because obviously Aegon's prophecy is the through line between all of this, and we're supposed to remember that there is bigger stakes. Remember, the Game of Thrones, the title of the book, is a saying that is about the vanity and futility. What happens? The High Lords play the Game of Thrones and the people suffer. So the whole part of the point of having the others as this existential threat hanging over Westeros is so that we always remember when these petty kings are squabbling over power, they are neglecting the greater safety of the realm. So it's a, you know, and they'll probably want to remind us of that.
Yeah, because if we think to our current story with Jon, if Jon being one half of the prince that was promised because he is Stark and Targaryen, and then something that we see here when Jace goes to treat with Cregan, and can't say too much because of spoilers, but the agreement that they come with is called the Pact of Ice and Fire. So that would be nice. Maybe we'll see a rustling of the White Walkers in the background. Just an idea. It could be like one White Walker seeing the events unfolding and just going, soon. Something like that.
They're sensing a disturbance in the Force as the bloodlines try to come together to create the prince that was promised. No, that's exactly right. That makes a lot of sense. I do think that the White Walkers activated at Jon's birth, and that's why George sort of paints them in the sky at the Tower of Joy dream, you know. This
is the White Walker's premature ejaculation moment.
Hey, what are you trying to Tim? Tim! I've been dealing with demonetization all week, Brady. They struck down our 4-hour stream. Then I appealed it, and 2 days later they were like, "Oh yeah, no, it's fine." But of course, by then I had taken it down and decided to edit it into separate videos. So they reapproved the 4-hour stream, and you're going to have to just put up with 30 seconds of this. I'm sorry, but I've been through a lot this week. And then I put out the first video. It's 45 minutes. It's edited down version of part of the live stream that's already been approved by YouTube. And they hit that with a demonetization. But they didn't hit it as soon as I put the video out, so I could have just fixed it. They left it up for a day. And then they demonetized it. And when they demonetized it, they also took a dump on my channel with the algorithm, and like all of my numbers went so that I put out a new video. Anyways, the point now, everything is back monetized again. I didn't do anything wrong. There was no problem with any of the videos. So they struck 2 of them. But then I got this House of the Dragon trailer. Now everything is better, and I'm happy, and it's fine, and we're moving on. Please watch my videos. And what was the point? What were we talking about? Demonetization. Tim, please be careful.
I used the scientifically correct terms. There was not a swear, not a slang, not a curse word in there.
Yeah, what do you have against biology, YouTube?
A lot of things. A lot of things. Historians can't talk about World War II without getting demonetized.
It's fine, guys. It's just part of the hazards of being a YouTuber. It's all right. I appreciate you guys' support. That's all that matters. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Help me get to 100,000. Make sure you subscribe to Tim's channel. And we appreciate you being here. That's all. So we have yet to see. I did make videos about the prophecy. I got a whole series about Aegon's prophecy. I think it's a very important plot point in the books and the show. So check out those videos. I have one called Why Did Torrhen Kneel? Explaining that Torrhen Stark and Aegon the Conqueror probably talked about the White Walkers and the prophecy and all that, which means that the Starks, for at least some point, sometime, knew about Aegon's prophecy too. It may have made it all the way down to almost Ned, meaning to Rickard, and potentially Brandon, who died suddenly and didn't get to tell Ned, maybe. But then I bet Lyanna and Rhaegar must have talked about it. So then Lyanna would have told Ned about it at the Tower of Joy. So I've got a video, what Lyanna told Ned, and that's about what happened at the Tower of Joy. And so, once we get to Jacaerys, we know Jacaerys, again, has flown to Winterfell to hang out with Cregan and go hunting and stuff. And they will almost certainly talk about the prophecy. Now, I do think that they should have shown us Rhaenyra telling Jace about the prophecy before he left. However, they can very easily say that it happened. So I'm guessing that they will.
And YouTube has been ridiculous with the demonetization, and they have like, there's no way of knowing what's against the rules. Like, it's at the point where, just a quick aside, I'm a subscribe to History Matters. He did a video on the Italian side of World War II, a 3-minute video, and he had to refer to Mussolini as the fez-wearing Italian man, because to say Mussolini so many times in a 3-minute video would get him demonetized. To say a historical figure's name would get him demonetized. That's how bad YouTube is right now.
Yeah, well, the main thing is just it's inconsistent, and I don't want to just go on about this forever, but yeah, if I knew what the rules were, I could follow them. It's hard to tell what the rules are. In any case,
they make it up as they go along.
My manager is cringing right now. We've got to get this back on the rails. So I do appreciate you mods in the chat. And there was something someone said a second ago here. Oh, yeah. So what Lyanna told Ned specifically, think about this. Rhaegar and Lyanna were doing what they were doing because of prophecy. So whatever. And we know that Rhaegar shared his understanding of prophecy with all his friends. With Arthur Dayne, with Elia. They were all in. They all knew what Rhaegar was doing and thinking. So Lyanna obviously would. And that would be one of the few things that she would want to tell Ned with her dying breath, is who Jon is, why that's important, and this is why you have to hide his identity and keep him alive. So the prophecy is right in the middle of that conversation, is what I'm saying. And that means Ned was told about it, but I'm guessing that Ned would be skeptical because he's looking at Rhaegar and Lyanna as being foolish. They ran off, they started a war, Lyanna got herself killed. He doesn't hate Rhaegar, but he probably looks at the two of them and thinks, you guys believe in a bunch of weird stuff, and you did a bunch of weird stuff, and I don't. So I think that would basically turn Ned against the idea of prophecy and magic, but it would be in the back of his mind. And I do wonder if he had lived long enough to talk to Jon Snow about it. You know, maybe that could have happened. But of course, Ned died too, so. Let's.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
I've always been a fan of the Marwyn line that I can't repeat verbatim, but yeah, I could see Ned having that same kind of idea about it, of like, prophecy's not good. You shouldn't go chasing it because it's too easy to misinterpret. And then, like I've said many times, my biggest criticism with Rhaegar, trying to force square pegs into round holes all the time. It goes in the square hole. Sometimes you see things that aren't there because you want it to work for you.
So our special guest was going to be Faye Fire, and I wanted to ask her about this in particular. This is like this is like a painting here. It's very Lady of the Lake, very Arthurian. I don't know specifically what is being evoked here, but this seems almost like it might be a dream. I mean, Alicent is not going to be wandering around near a lake in a dressing gown at this point in the story, so I'd have to think this is a dream. This looks like a painting, and I know they were using Renaissance paintings as inspiration for certain scenes. I saw a thread about that in from season 1. So this one kind of looks like some painting that my brain is trying to remember, but
yeah. See, like I had said, because we can't really make out what it is she's looking at in the distance, so I can't tell if that's King's Landing and she's staring out across from it from Blackwater Bay, or, and I had said to you, I think maybe it might be, if this is a dream sequence, that might be Harrenhal. But if she's staring out at Harrenhal from across the lake, that would mean she's on the Isle of Faces in the middle of the God's Eye, which is not something Alicent does, but in a dream could happen and could be a good setup for someone who else is going to go there. And I also think that if this is a dream, if I'm correct in this idea, that this is a dream where she's dreaming she's on the Isle of Faces, that could come after an interaction either with Helena, who is our dragon dreamer, or after another run-in with Laris Strong, the Clubfoot. Because Laris is possibly a Green Seer. I'm not willing to write that off just yet. There's something weird about. I mean, he's already weird with the foot thing, but even more weird, I think, like Laris Strong, how strong the Harrenhal thing. I do think that there's more to the Clubfoot that's letting on, and maybe we'll see a bit more of that when we see the Clubfoot return in season 2.
I personally am not a fan of the idea that Laris has any magic at all. I am strongly against that theory, but it is a popular theory, so we will entertain it as being possible. Because I can't say that it isn't.
It's an unknown.
We shall see. I just think he's a Varys character, and that's that. In any case, we will see. But this definitely seems like a dream sequence. It looks like a lake more than a river. Just looking at the water, it's very placid. It's not big enough. Like the Isle of Faces is much further from the shore of than this, but that doesn't really matter. So it could be anywhere, could be nowhere. We will find out. But I think is that it's interesting that they're giving Alicent dream sequences like this, because it means that they are working with dream sequences. The original Game of Thrones did not really like to do that sort of thing. Vision sequences, dream sequences, they did not do a lot of that. So if they're giving Alicent this kind of thing, I just wonder, will we get some Helena dreams then? Will we get some psychedelic Helena visions of... I mean, there's a lot there if they want to go there, so...
Yeah, because that's the thing, like, D&D, terrible showrunners, tried to really downplay the magic aspect in the original show. And that's because they wanted to appeal to football fans and housewives. Like, those are their words, not mine. But here, Ryan Condal has at least shown to be more embracing of the magical, mystical aspects of it, which is why we're getting Helena being more fleshed out as a character and being our dragon dreamer.
Yeah, so and again, you have to think about, because Fire and Blood is an outline, and this Eagle Eye historical narrative, a lot of the characters don't really do that much from the standpoint of like major events. And so the show has to flesh out and imagine, what would the emotional turmoil be like? What would the decision points be like? What would the heart in conflict, what kind of positions would they be in for these characters? So with Helena, and it's a lot of the female characters who don't go to war, let's just say that. For Lares and Corlys is, I guess Corlys eventually goes to war, but with the characters who are doing more talking and less actiony stuff, dream sequences are a very interesting way to explore that inner turmoil and inner space. So I would be excited to see more of that. And with Helena, she's a character that, like, in a sense, she does a lot of sitting around, right? And her mood is described and stuff. But it's like, well, there's stuff going on inside there. There's stuff that she's concerned about. There's things around her happening that she can see, because we know that she has visions of the future, and she has these warnings. She has a Cassandra-like presence. So it seemed like they really enjoyed using that element in season 1, and I'd expect them to keep doing that as well. So
yeah, because I think in season 2 we're all going to be looking for the beast beneath the boards, and whether that applied to the ending scene when Rhaenys popped up from under the dragon pit, or is it alluding to something else, something that is yet to happen?
That seems like one that could come back around and keep on giving and giving and giving, quite frankly. I do think it referred to Rhaenys and the dragon. The dragon is a beast. They're called beasts many times in the books. I've seen some people be like, no, it's a beast, not a dragon. No, dragon is a beast. Very obviously. It does, and it was literally beneath the board, so that's clearly a part of what it was talking about. But could it have other layers? Yes. We'll see. Yeah, there could be rats. Could be rats, because rats are beasts too. And we've seen a lot of rats in the show drinking the blood at the wedding and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah.
There's definitely rats in the walls, and that's a Lovecraft shout out. Rats
and rat catchers. How's the hair product endorsement deal going? You know, I should get one. I don't have any product in my hair. This is just my hair, so I should get a deal. Try to trick people into thinking that you could bottle this and buy it when you can't. Yeah, you have to have great grandparents from Italy. That's what you need. That's not in a bottle. Anyway, so this is a big one here. We got 2 dragons on the beach. One is obviously Syrax, and Rhaenyra. The other one looks to be Sea Smoke. That is about the right size and the right color. The tail is right. The neck is right. I'm about 99% that is Sea Smoke. Dreamfire is the other that it could be, but Dreamfire is Helena's dragon, and it's hard to see why Helena would be meeting with Rhaenyra on a beach like this. So this is really fuel for... The question is, who is this other person? Is that Adam or Alan, or is that Laenor? It's one of those people. So it's just all a matter of how they're going to resolve the Laenor thing, which we already touched on. But I would just, to follow up on that, I do not think we will see Laenor again. I think they will refer to either him being dead or having relinquished the bond, and that's it. I don't think you need to bring him back just to say, I give up the bond, or, hi, how's it going? And then he dies, like, we don't need that. It's okay, girl. I didn't die. It's all right. I know, I'm a Laenor fan, too. It's okay. He's alive. He's living his best life in Essos, girl. So, yeah. By the way, I saw a weird comment in another live stream yesterday, which I shall now castigate, because I love doing that. And somebody was saying that if Laenor doesn't come back and fight or something, that he's the worst character, because he's abandoned his family. Or whatever. I would just like to remind everyone that the Game of Thrones is bad. Playing the Game of Thrones is bad. Using your resources to struggle for power, for personal and political power, at the expense of those that you're supposed to govern is bad. So, the correct take here is not, Laenor should have stuck around and used his dragon to help his family murder people in order to win the Game of Thrones. No. The only criticism of Laenor is that they killed a serving man in order to arrange his escape. Now, that was Daemon who did that, and I also would like to point out that it was Daemon and Rhaenyra who came up with the plan. And this is another reason why I think that there must be a way for Laenor to relinquish the dragon bond, is because Rhaenyra and Daemon would not have sent him away if it meant the loss of a dragon for their side. I don't think. So, good for Laenor opting out of the Game of Thrones. That's good. Anybody who can do that, I'm like, good for you. That's... If my family's like, no, you got to stick around and help us kill people so we can win the chair, I'd be like, nah, I don't, actually. Just my opinion. What do you think about that, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that Corlys and Rhaenys don't get any kind of closure in knowing that their son is still alive and that he's just going off to be with his lover, who they knew about. They knew what Laenor was, that Laenor wasn't straight, because they had just lost a daughter recently. But I've said, like, Corlys with his ambition, the idea of letting his son, his dragon riding son, his heir, go at a time like this, go off and be free with his boyfriend. Yeah. He wouldn't have. No. He's been playing he's been playing the role of grandpa to a kid he knows is a bastard for too long to let that get away. But as far as Laenor is concerned, on paper, I've given you three boys with my name. I've done my job. Good enough.
Yeah, for someone that was thrown into a political marriage, like he definitely stuck around and did his time. Mm-hmm. We saw that Rhaenyra appreciated him and that dynamic, so we can then assume that he's been a good father for the most part and all that stuff. So yeah, I didn't really get that. It seemed like a weird criticism, to be honest. But yeah, so I don't think this is Laenor. This is probably going to be someone different. But yeah, this is no doubt a scene that will resolve the issue. So I think they're just showing us Sea Smoke is still around, and something's going to happen with that. That's kind of what they're telling us. So you can see this is the same scene here. So this is Rhaenyra's kind of like, she's kind of like, what the hell? What is this? She's like kind of confused and cautious, maybe. Like, yeah, because there's some sort of mystery here. Like, who is this person riding Laenor's dragon? Or if it's Laenor, it's like, what are you doing here? So, yeah. I don't think that's a scar. That's her hair. Her hair is brushing in her face. That's not a scar.
Yeah, that's wind blowing, sea breeze. Yeah, it's probably just strands of hair.
Nah, if she had been cut on the face, we'd know about that. So here we got a little dragon pit sunrise. Nothing like a shot of the dragon pit in the morning. Wake you up to senses. So I think the idea here is like sleeping dragons, because then we go right to King's Landing and we see a bunch of chaos. Well, we will in a second. But so this is Helaena with a black shroud. So she's in mourning. This could be from Viserys' death or the death of a character whose death will come in season 2. There's plenty of people that die. So there's a few options. Veil. Yes, thank you. But yeah, this is obviously funeral mourning attire of some kind. And just kind of creepy looking, of course. So, we'll see. This looks like some sort of procession in the streets of King's Landing. Mm-hmm. Tony was hoping for a funeral for King Viserys. And Gray was like, they're not giving him no funeral. The Greens don't care. They let his body rot. I think they do kind of have to give him a funeral, though. I don't know if we'll see it, but yeah, there's something going on in the streets here. What's that?
The green and gold makes it look like these are more Hightower men leading this procession, whatever it is.
Yeah, I guess this could be them leaving Old Town, but it's probably them in King's Landing, more likely.
Yeah, maybe when they get to King's Landing.
So I'll play this one
again,
live. So
yeah, I was gonna say, because Prince Daeron coming home would be a big moment. That would be something worth celebrating in King's Landing.
If he got all the way to King's Landing, they'd be making some major changes. So probably that's not it, actually, now that I think about it. But they could do that. So let me play this part live. So that looked like a dragon eye view, right? It's either a flying camera shot. No, they don't really do those. This has to be a dragon.
That dragon's flying really low then.
Yeah, it is, because it's getting ready to eat one of these men and their horses. I guess it could be a sweeping camera shot, but to me it looks like it's intended to be a dragon. And then if we keep going, this is Kristen and somebody else running through the woods, and then they show up at a battle in the woods, which involves a dragon. So these are the same Rosby and Stokeworth men feeling the fire of some dragon. We don't even know what side they're on. Like, Kristen is racing to this army and he's in the action here, but what side is he fighting on? Is the dragon coming to eat Kristen, or is it like accompanying him to the battlefield? We don't know what dragon it is. But obviously the dragons are going to be involved in the battles. That is what
Yeah.
we came to see.
I guess it depends on if the dragon is aiming for the Rosby and the Stokeworth men, or if this is a case of friendly fire, because that would determine. Because the Stokeworth and Rosby would be Kristen's men at this moment; they're Aegon supporters.
But not by choice, really.
Not by choice.
So they could be opposing at first. This could be them being brought to heel. It's hard to say. They're very much caught. They're pawns. Because they're so close to King's Landing, they're kind of have to go along with whoever possesses King's Landing. So they're very much caught in the middle. Thank you, Inside Lewin Martel, who says that all the Ironborn content this week has been fire. Yes, it has been. For those of you who watched. All 37 people who saw the video. So, yes, the dragons are going to be burning a lot of stuff. I don't know about you, but I thought that one of the coolest parts of the last couple seasons was Dany fighting the Lannisters and burning that baggage train. I guess that was season 7. Seeing the dragons in full battle was, like, incredible, was it not?
Yeah. Yeah, like, as far as it's the good moments in the later seasons become few and far between, but they're not non-existent, and the dragon battles that we get are the highlights. But at least with this, we're not gonna, at least hopefully again, like, HBO, give them the budget they need. We're not going to be lacking in dragons in this show. We got what, like, at least a dozen that we're going to have to see over the course of this season.
Well, and that's kind of the payoff for waiting 2 years in between seasons, which sucks, quite frankly. You know, that's the payoff. Like, they're giving us cinematic stuff, movie level stuff, and that's really the best way to go to Westeros. So I do hope that they can get their shit together and bring us the 3rd season with less of a gap than season 1 and 2, but this is the upside, is cinema quality stuff. So yeah, the battle scenes with the dragons, it's Jurassic Park meets, you know, Braveheart. It's going to be, you know, pretty intense. So here we have Rhaenyra. Yes, this is the, there's no war so hateful to the gods as a war between kin, and no war so bloody as a war between dragons. Yeah, that's Rhaenys giving the warning.
Yeah, this is the first time the world has seen anything like this since Valyria.
And we're not even told, like, we're only told in the vaguest of terms that Dragon Lords of Valyria would sometimes contest with each other. But we have no accounts of what that was like.
Yeah, because the histories are more of Valyria fighting old geese or fighting the Rhoynar, who were not dragon riders. So it always seems more like a one-sided battle in that aspect. But we are given little snippets that occasionally there were flare-ups in Valyria. But this is like probably the first time we've seen, at least as far as we know of a full-on dragon civil war. If it's happened in the past, it's not something that George has given us any information on.
And if you go back in time to when Fire and Blood was only a glimmer in George's eye, and he was writing Dance with Dragons, or he has written Dance with Dragons, and he's getting ready, and he's working on Winds of Winter. Fire and Blood, one of the reasons George decided to write it is because he needed to tell us about dragon warfare and what it was like, so that we would know before Dany comes to Westeros with her dragons what she's getting into. Because think about it, our understanding has totally changed since A Dance with Dragons, before Fire and Blood came out, to now. We know so much more about what to expect when the dragons go into war and into battle. So I definitely think that George was using fire and blood in part to give us the kind of information that we would need before Dany goes to war with her dragons. So, yes, the whole, like, part of the point of this is to show us how horrible it is. That was my first take after reading Fire and Blood, was like, oh my God. It really is awful. Like, the dragons die, the people riding the dragons die, the people on the ground die, lots of people die. It's awful. It's not pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the closest real world idea we would have of that would be the alternate history of what if scenario of what if the Cold War went hot? What if two nuclear powers actually hit the big red button? Well, this is like George's medieval version of that happening.
Yeah, and of course, the worse the weapons are, the worse the war is. Mm-hmm. You know, World War I and II. Don't look up the history, folks, if you don't have a strong stomach. There's a thing called trench warfare, and it just makes you wonder about the human race as a whole and what we're doing on the earth when you read about things like that. Like, how did we find our way to that? Of all the things that people can do. So, yeah, I think George is drawing from plenty of reality when he's showing us the horrors of war. And that is always supposed to be an important part of this book. And so right after she's saying this, we see a picture of her granddaughter, Baela, who's awesome. Yay, go Baela. But what is she screaming at? It's a super heavy metal scream that she's doing here. There's a guy on Instagram that's really big now, and he plays death metal riffs over weird little video clips of people screaming. Have you ever seen that, Tim?
Yeah.
Just like some kid or somebody at Walmart screaming, and he's like sitting there with his guitar, and then he's like, the
way you paused it, the way she's holding the rein, it looks like she's screaming into a mic.
You're totally right. It would hardly take any photoshopping at all, would it?
No, just a little bit, and that would totally look like a microphone in her hand.
I'll get right on it. So the question is, what is she? It looks like she's watching something horrible. This doesn't look like a war cry. To me, it read more of like a no kind of scream. I don't know. If that's her war cry, like, that's impressive. Show me your war face.
You don't scare me.
Like, you scare me, actually. And you're riding a dragon. I think that gets the pass. So, now, in all seriousness, one thing that we did expect was that Baela's role would be played up. She's one of those people that really seems interesting, but doesn't do a whole lot until later in the story. And since we did not get enough of Laena Velaryon, beloved of the fandom, it makes sense that they would play up Baela's role. Now, Tony was asking, because we don't know that Nettles is cast yet, could they potentially play up Baela's role to take Nettles' place? That would work for a couple things, but
not everything.
Not everything. And you have to remember, Baela's highborn, Nettles is not. And that lowborn perspective is very important, I feel like, because she has a different reaction to all this stuff than anyone else. So I continue to say that Nettles will be cast, but Baela's role will still be played up.
Yeah. I think Nettles is such a fan favorite. To not cast her would be a gigantic mistake.
Yeah, I don't think Ryan would do it. Just don't think that Ryan would do it. So here we go to chaos in King's Landing. Like, everyone's running around. They're escorting Alicent somewhere in a hurry. And this schmo is trying to grab her. Like, who is this dude? He's about to get that arm cut off by one of those Kingsguard.
Yeah, that looks like something out of like the food riots in King's Landing when somebody threw the cow pie at Joffrey's head. It looks like one of those moments about to break out.
Yeah, I tend to think it definitely feels like that. Allison has mud on her face too, so maybe something's been thrown.
Hmm.
And it kind of makes you wonder. I guess I can't really speculate without doing spoilers, but yeah, why would this be happening right now? Hard to say. There's many reasons why there could be instability in King's Landing, but yeah, we'll come back to that. So is that a Bracken horse?
Yeah, because there's going to be 2 battles that involve the Brackens very early on in the war. So I think these would be I think these are Brackens.
Yeah, there's a lot of good Riverlands action. And a lot of the Riverlands plots are cool because you see like no-name characters and low-born characters just kind of work their way into the story. So like we keep talking about the High Lords and the common people. Like the common people, they get into it. They mix it up and they meet some of these High Lords and put a couple of them out of their misery even. So
and Nell's saying, so the Valerian blockade blocks food in King's Landing. Yeah. So like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, Corlys's blockade of the Narrow Sea is interrupting trade for everybody, not just for the free cities, but also for King's Landing. So, and the and all of Westeros, really. So yeah, if food isn't coming into King's Landing because of Corlys's blockade, but the people of King's Landing are gonna, even though it's not the Greens who are doing that, but Corlys, they're still gonna take it out on the nearest people that are in charge. They're still gonna be looking at the royal family and saying, "Well, what are you doing about this? We're starving." So yeah, yep. Misdirected anger is still anger.
George does a good job structuring the war. With the way that it's entangled in things like trade and local politics and stuff. He really does show you how war doesn't exist in a vacuum. You know, the Triarchy is involved, Pentos is involved, these small houses and local feuds, Blackwoods and Brackens and things like that. There's interesting little power play in the Vale of Arryn with the Lady Jane and all this stuff. So yeah, it's a tangled web of war that George has woven. So, and this is I love how all the Riverland stuff instantly feels like Robin Hood. It's just like these dudes probably just, waylaying travelers by the road, hiding in the woods, popping out, all that stuff. So it's vibey. He's cute. Who's they? And then we've got some more people burning. 3 Varys, it looks like. I don't know. Can't tell who they are. Just people burning. They just splice that in every once in a while. Just people burning. Because just to remind you, like, lots of people are dying. Daemon looks on in approval. We know how Daemon rolls. Daemon's a hardcore MFer. We saw him in the Stepstones. So here we go. Little slow dance. Oh, wait, he's holding a knife. I thought they were slow dancing. They're not. This looks bad. That's the bad man, isn't it, Tim?
Yeah, that's either the blood or the cheese.
Yep. This is something we can't say a whole lot about without the spoilers, but yes, get away from her. This is a very bad man. And he has a knife. And she's already got a couple of little cuts on her neck. So he's been holding it there for a minute. We'll have to see what kind of dark situation is happening here. We already know, we've read the books. Let's move along. So this is the same uniform, the same type of uniform as the guy that Kristen was beheading in the earlier scene. This guy looks like a soldier, whereas the other guy is probably some sort of lord or commander being executed like that. But obviously Kristen is putting down rebellions and, oh, he's hitting people with his helmet. So he's pulling a Daemon here. Smacking this guy with his metal helmet, which probably hurts.
Oh, I wonder if he just delivered him a letter with news he didn't want to hear.
Kristen just seems like a ball of rage that's just going to get more ragier as it goes and more ballier. Blood and Cheese, probably the first episode, I would guess. I think that's your first episode shocker. The second one at the latest. Yeah, I guess it might be episode 2. So, yeah. So, interesting here. This is Kristen hitting a dude. This is also Kristen falling off the horse. You can tell because he's got that chain. He's got the hand chain around his neck right there. You can see his helmet coming off. So Kristen, at some point, this is probably the battle that we saw earlier where he's riding through the woods and there's a dragon around. So yeah, obviously Kristen will knock himself off of his own horse with a little bit of time travel. No. But yeah. It just shows you. In one scene, you're given the beatdown. In another scene, you're getting the beatdown. That's how it works. So here is either Eric or Arik. I think their facial hair is different. I don't know which is which. But interesting thing here is this looks like a bed chamber. So there's some sort of fight going on. You know, the Kingsguard, they are guarding the royals. So this is maybe there's an assassin, or maybe this is that scene where Alicent is being rushed out of the castle by the Kingsguard, and there's some instability happening. Maybe someone's threatening to take the city. But yeah, the intrigue. And then okay, so he's crossing swords with somebody. You can't tell. It's just a mailed fist and a sword of some kind. Then we've got a regulators, mount up. It was a clear black night. Oh, wait. So here we got Aemond mounting up in that sort of agitated Aemond style. Like, come on, let's go. We gotta go burn people. Love the energy. It's very angsty. They really cast this well. That just like it's not happening fast enough for him. I relate to that. And then Rhaenyra looking equally determined and pissed. That is a frown. Look at that. Look at that frown. That's a war face too, right there. So, this is probably not the same scene. We do not expect Rhaenyra and Syrax and Aemond and Vhagar to be facing off. But it's probably just a juxtaposition, thematic juxtaposition of these two people. Yeah. Looks like her dragon saddle's gotten an upgrade. Go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say that any new scene with Rhaenyra and Syrax, it's like, your guess is as good as mine because this is going to be all new material with trying to get, when we're giving Rhaenyra more to do in the story than she initially had in the book.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that is an upgraded queenly saddle for sure. I don't remember all that gold work before. Upgrade you. Love that. Love that for her. She is pissed. She is pissed. Not wearing armor either, so she's not going into battle. She's literally just hopping on her dragon here. This is maybe when she went to Storm's End. That's what I would guess. This is her, like, right after she's learned the news, and she's going to Storm's End to deal with the fallout in some way. Because I think the first scene she's wearing that same dress. Yeah. Is that the same dress? Let's see.
Looks similar.
No. It's not. But
No.
that could be
No, that's riding. Yeah, she's wearing riding leathers.
that's like a riding coat.
Yeah. Similar colors, but not the same thing. No.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
no, that is the same. Is that it? It's got the 2 clasps and the flames around the neck. It is the same. You could see the flames and the 2 clasps.
Looks thicker there. Like looks more leather than cloth, but okay.
Yeah, I think it is the same. So it's probably the same scene, but it doesn't really matter. She named that child after herself. That's inappropriate. That is mildly inappropriate. Daniel, I will not read that. And then, see, they know who the star is. Saving the best for last. Nana spreads her wings. Oh, let's just watch that a few times. Are you boys going to have a war? I heard y'all was having a war. Hey, I love some war. I do love burning people. Y'all know that. Oh, boy. Look how huge she is, man. Just... I love the way she rises over the trees. And then the wings spread, and it's like...
Yeah, the holes in the wings to show, like, this is a dragon who is old. This is a dragon who has seen action. Like, yeah.
Blotting out the sun.
Battle scarred, yeah. Nobody has enough badges to train Nana Vagar.
Well, your Nana, she's been around now. She's been to a battle or two. She's picked up a couple of war wounds, but that just builds a character.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's right. That's right, Tim.
And I've killed many things.
I love the feet. That shows the size as much as anything. Look at those fucking feet. Oh. The tail, too. The tail looks like... I mean, it's corpse-like. She looks dead. She really does look like a corpse dragon. I love it. I love it. Like, how do you make a dragon look old? I don't know, but they did it. Like an iguana. Oh, I love the gizzard. Oh, yes. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make sure you're signed up, guys. Only $10 a month. Okay, so let's give the spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. If you don't want to be spoiled, go away. Go somewhere else. We're going to talk about fire and blood now. All right, Tim, where do you want to start? I'll let you pick.
All right.
We've gone in order, so.
So I guess. Oh, okay. So I did say that we would come back to the scene of Kristen beheading that guy and who he might be beheading. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so initially, when the war begins, and we start with our war of letters, when Otto Hightower is sending out trying to get support for Aegon and finding that a lot of houses have actually declared for Rhaenyra already. She starts out very popular. What they immediately do is they go to the Crownland houses, the ones that had been imprisoned, and we get Rosby, Stokeworth, Butterwell, as well as there's Merryweather, Hayworth, Fell, Caswell, and a couple others. Now, Rosby, Stokeworth, and Butterwell all decide, well, I want to live. So they declare for Aegon. But Merryweather, Caswell, Hayworth, Fell, they stick to their oaths to Rhaenyra. And that's when Kristen starts beheading, and as a response, he beheads them along with a couple of knights. So who is he beheading? Well, it's probably going to be one of them. That's probably like Lord Merryweather or Lord Hayworth or one of them. But that's what I think this scene is beheading the people who refuse to switch alliance to Aegon, to refuse to turn cloak the way the Butterwells, the Rosbys, and the Stokeworths are gonna.
Yeah, and it's hard to say which one it is, but it's got to be something like that. The giveaway is him hitting the guy with the helmet. That's not something that you do in battle. Like, they have control of the situation. They show up, they have the King's Guard, they're executing a High Lord here, and he's just smacking one of the soldiers with his helmet disrespectfully. So that shows you, like, yeah, this is not really a battle thing. This is more of him showing up to execute somebody. So, like I said, there's just going to be a lot of this coming.
Yeah. Like him hitting that guy with his helmet, that's the reaction of someone who just said something to you that you didn't want to hear. It's not a battle thing. It's just like how we said it's like when Daemon beats the messenger after getting the letter from his brother. It's probably the same sort of thing going on.
Jenny of Oldstone says Rhaenyra's face is dirty. Oh, it looks a little sooty. Did she burn something, maybe? Could be. Maybe your face just gets dirty if it's as being used as a windshield. But yeah, maybe that's soot. I could see that. Okay, so let's talk about Daeron a little bit. So Daeron's first battle is at the Battle of the Honeywine, it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
that is when he...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, that's where he earns his spurs. He's a squire in the beginning. The Battle of the Honeywine happens. He has his big hero moment, saves the day with Tessarion, and that's when his uncle, Ormond Hightower, knights him.
And it's very dramatic. The Hightower army is trying to reach King's Landing, but there's all these other houses in the Reach that are pro-Rhaenyra, and they are harrying and harassing, and finally, they've got a force amassed that stops the Hightowers dead in their tracks. And he's very worried about losing a battle to the opponents at that point when Daeron shows up and literally saves the day. It's very dramatic. And yes, so he's knighted after that. If they're going to introduce Daeron, that's the way to do it. So technically this would come in the beginning of season 3 if they were all adapting it totally linearly from Fire and Blood. But I definitely think this is something they could move into this season if they wanted to, since they're not doing the Battle of Rook's Rest. I mean, they're not doing the Battle of the Gullet. So that's where the dividing is. Right before the Battle of the Gullet is where this season ends. So this Hightower army, the fact that they're showing us the Hightower army, like Daeron should be with this army. So if they're going to introduce Daeron at all, it makes sense to go ahead and give him the Battle of the Honeywine near the end of the season. Otherwise, they're almost like putting too many battles off to next season, kind of.
Yeah. We got to get some early. So, yeah, I think we'll probably see the Honeywine happen. That'll be a great introduction to Daeron. We'll probably see Battle of the Burning Mill and Battle of Stonehenge. That's the bracket. So the Burning Mill and Stonehenge are losses for the Greens, but specifically they are losses for the Brackens. So that's why I think that those guys that we saw later with the horse lapel, probably Brackens. That's probably either going to be Burning Mill or Stonehenge happening there.
Yeah, and
yes, so anyone just joining the chat, this is the spoiler section. So for everyone who's just coming in right now. So if you don't want to be spoiled, now's the time to click away and catch it on the rewatch so you can see everything we talked about the first half.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, we'll keep saying it every few minutes, I guess, just to make sure everyone knows.
Yeah, because I just saw people in the chat saying I'm late, but I'm here, and I'm like, oh,
right.
You came in at spoiler time.
Yeah, this is the spoiler section. I guess I could put up some. Oh, I can make some text. I can do this. So Yeah, no, Daeron is confirmed. He's not being combined with anybody. He's cat. Literally the showrunners have said he's in Old Town. So we don't know if we'll see him or not this year, but he's definitely not eliminated or combined with Aemond. That is false. He is alive. He's in the bloodline flow in the intro, and he is confirmed to be in Old Town. And the thing is, he marches with the Old Town army, up to King's Landing. So if they're showing us, why you keep saying he's not in season 2? You don't know that. We don't know who will be in which season. Anyway, we will see. I suspect if they're showing us the Hightower army, that he probably will be in the season.
Wasn't it George himself who said that Daeron was going to show up in season 2 on his Nada blog?
I don't remember. But your memory's better than mine, so.
I think he might. I think it's in the Nada blog that he mentions that Daeron was going to show up.
I just know he's definitely in the show, just not which season.
Yeah.
But so then, okay, this is nothing exciting here. Now the dragon seeds should be this season too, and if they don't have the dragon seeds this season, then you almost wouldn't have enough material. So that means that we should see Nettles this year, and we don't know. We haven't heard of Nettles casting. Like, they don't announce all the castings ahead of time. So if they're going to do Ulf and Hugh, then we should see Nettles this year as well. And so this is, this could definitely be a Dragon Seed scene.
I don't see how you could have Ulf, Hugh, Alan, Adam, but not have Nettles. That makes no sense to me. If you're going to do all of them, then you should have all 5.
Yeah, because it's kind of just one event. Like, you get the idea that it takes place over a few days, maybe even a couple of weeks. They're looking for Grey Ghost and Cannibal and stuff, but like, it's kind of one event, so yeah. I wouldn't think that they'd introduce their characters this season and wait till next year to actually do it. I don't think that would make sense. Yeah.
Because there's too many characters where you can't collapse them into one character. Like, you need, and I've said, like, I want it. We need the Dragon Seeds. We need the lads. We need the Caltrops. We need the 3 kings under the hill with all their gutter knights. Now, if they want to combine something like Tom Tangletongue and Tom Tanglebeard into one character, that's fine. That's doable. But everyone else, it's like, no, you need them. They need to be a separate, distinct character because they all have their own storyline that goes in its own way.
Yeah, and Nettles, the reason why Nettles is such an important character, besides the fact that she's just really charismatic and awesome, which is like, why would you cut a character like that? Again, she is one of the few dragon riders who is not highborn. And the ones that are not highborn all have different perspectives and reactions to the war. Nettles, in particular, is the one, after the Battle of the Gullet, she is not happy. She does not celebrate her victory like Hugh and Ulf. She is basically completely torn up and horrified and does not fight again in the war. So that's a really important reaction to have because no one else has that reaction. It's literally just as important as when Davos goes, it's a good thing I'm not Azor Ahai Reborn because I don't think I could kill my wife. I guess I'm not a hero. And actually, that's what makes Davos heroic. So this is the same kind of moment when, like, amidst all this carnage and dragon fighting and all this, we need to have that voice that's like, oh my God, this is horrible. And that is part of what Nettles does. And then we have the whole thing with Nettles and Daemon and their relationship, which is, it's not certain exactly. Is it romantic? Is that Daemon's bastard daughter? But it's a very close relationship of some kind. And it affects Daemon and it affects Rhaenyra. So she's one of the most important characters. And I really don't see how she could get cut.
Yeah, because if we're going to have if we're going to have multifaceted characters, especially with our female characters, then we want to see both the good and the bad. The Nettles Daemon relationship shows the jealousy in Rhaenyra, and it also shows the hypocrisy in Rhaenyra, because after Ulf the White and Hugh Hammer turn cloak, that's when Rhaenyra starts to have those thoughts where she kind of becomes a parallel to Catelyn Stark of, oh, bastards are born wicked. But it's like, well, that's rich coming from you because you tried to put your own bastards on the throne. But if we want to see, like, again, if we want to see a multifaceted characterization in Rhaenyra, then we need to see even the unsavory aspects, the jealousy and the hypocrisy need to be put on full screen, just as along with all of the good, all of the heroic, all of the what makes a good leader thing that happens. And that's why we get the end of the story, like, what was it all for? Well, kind of the answer was you fought for all the wrong reasons. You probably started good, but at the end you end with, what do we have? Ashes.
Yeah, and I think this is some people kind of freaked out when they're making Rhaenyra and Alicent sympathetic. They're whitewashing their character. And I was like, no, they're creating an arc. That's what they're doing, because this war is going to take everybody to very dark places. But that's more dramatic if you see where these people came from and the time when they were full of hope and innocence and things like that. So, yeah, I always felt like that was a bit of an overreaction. I think they will fully go there with both Alicent and Rhaenyra. They're not going to, like, keep their hands clean and somehow move all of their bad deeds to somebody else. I just think they are creating an arc so that it'll be kind of dramatic when we see them doing things like that. And the same for other characters, too. Let's not fall into the trap of, men are butchers and women don't do anything wrong. That's obviously not true. So, yeah, Rhaenyra, they've done a good job of making Rhaenyra and Alicent sympathetic, because they're going to do things later that we're going to disapprove of quite a bit. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, because that's what we want: complex, multifaceted characters. We don't want cookie cutter cardboard cutouts of someone who's just, oh, you're the hero, you're the villain. No, we want people, and people have their good days and people have their bad days, and you need to be able to see both. It's a question of, do you have more good, or do you have are your days more good, or are your days more bad? And that's why we need to see Alicent and Rhaenyra have sympathetic moments, but also have villainous moments. And that's what's going to make us question our allegiances. Because again, I mean, it's a Twitter war, but if you're out there, like, we can joke about being, are you team green or team black? But for those who are, like, fully invested in it, then it's like, well, the answer is you missed the point. You were never supposed to be on one side. You were supposed to see the good and the bad in both and realize that this war was fought for all the wrong reasons. And if you aren't team small folk, then you miss the entire point of it.
Yeah, not to keep beating the drum here, but we are team small folk on this channel.
Like I said, make the jokes, make the memes, but the moment you actually take that Twitter fandom thing and you actually and you become like, no, this is for real. I really am ride or die for Alicent or Rhaenyra. Then it's like, no, it's no. When you stop making it fun and actually make it an aspect of your personality, you've lost the game.
So let me address this stuff about Nettles and Daemon and stuff. So I am skeptical on these theories, and let me explain why. When you give someone a hidden identity, it changes who they are. So, for example, I just was saying Nettles is important because she's lowborn and she has this reaction to riding the dragon. None of that makes sense if she's a child of the forest. Children of the forest are hundreds of years old. They don't have a reaction to stuff. They're like, oh my God, I never knew that going to war on a dragon is so horrifying. Oh my God, this surprises me. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Also, it doesn't make any sense to have a child of the forest riding a dragon in secret as a human. If children of the forest could ride dragons, that would be a part of the story that we would be thinking about already. So it kind of ruins the agency and character of Nettles to suppose that she's a glamored child of the forest. Also, there are no clues that she is a child of the forest. And with Nettles, I don't want to go too far with this, but there is in-world prejudice about Nettles that people in the fandom are falling into, and I just want to discourage that. Okay? Nettles is a dragon seed. Everyone who rides a dragon, and I'm going to sound follow my logic, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in Ice and Fire who rides a dragon, in my opinion, has to be of the blood of the dragon. The blood of the dragon is a real thing. The Valyrians have lizard babies. Nobody else has lizard babies. So we know the Valyrians are different. They are a magically engineered race of people. They have lizard DNA. Obviously, weird, creepy magic was used to create this. That is why they can bond with dragons. So if somebody who's not a blood of the dragon person can bond with a dragon anyway, then all of that stuff is unnecessary. And it doesn't make any sense. And then you'd have the issue of if anybody could bond with a dragon, why is it only Valyrians who ever rode dragons for 5,000 years? It's because they're lizard people. You have to be a lizard person to bond with a dragon. So with Nettles, here's just two things that are going on. Three things. One is a bad cockatoo. Second thing going on, Nettles doesn't look Valyrian. She's a brown girl with dark hair and dark eyes. Okay. Now, we know that obviously when pale-haired Valyrian people intermarry with darker people, those looks sometimes disappear. Baelor Breakspear, who's half Targaryen, hardly looks Targaryen. Okay? So, Nettles, obviously, some of these dragon seeds are several generations down. So, obviously, Nettles, if she's a dragon seed, which I'm saying she is, she doesn't look like it. However, she rode a dragon, so that kind of means that she is. The other thing about it is that she uses sheep, right, to approach the dragon. That's the whole thing. She brings Sheep Stealer a sheep every day, and then Sheep Stealer learns to expect her, Cleo. And so Sheep Stealer, who killed more people than the 3 castle dragons combined during the sowing of the seeds, accepts Nettles as her rider. So here's the thing. We know that the dragons, having the blood of the dragon just gets you in the door. That doesn't get you the job. The dragon still decides whether or not it accepts you as a rider. It burned people who were definitely of Valyrian descent at the sowing of the dragons. There's Silver Denys. Isn't that somebody
Silver
who's
Denys,
very obviously a dragon seed who gets killed by, is it Sheep Stealer? It is.
It's either Sheep Stealer or the Cannibal, but it's one of them. He tries to. Silver Denys looks very Valyrian, but he gets burned. And as for Nettles, we have sort of an in-world explanation from our main story, which would be Brown Ben Plum. Now, as you said, you could have Valyrian blood and the dragons still not accept you. Quentin Martell has Valyrian blood. The Daenerys Targaryen, the older Daenerys who married Mors Martell, Daeron the Good Sister, is his great-grandmother. So he definitely has Valyrian ancestry, but he still couldn't tame a dragon. However, Brown Ben Plum, when Dany's dragons, I mean, it's when they're still small and cute and just kind of perched on his shoulder, but they take to him. And that's when Brown Ben Plum says, "Oh, I have a drop of dragon's blood in me, maybe 2." And he's referring back to Aegon the Fourth, because Aegon the Fourth got around. But still, he has just a smidge, just a drop. It's generations back that he had the Valyrian ancestor, but it's still enough to make the dragons look twice at him and go, "Hey."
Yeah, that's what I was saying. In a more controlled circumstance, maybe that could have worked. But it's easy to see why it didn't work, because of all the chaos and the way that it was going on, all the people involved. They already agitated the dragons. They shot at one of the dragons, and then he's trying to cow it with a whip. So everything was wrong about that setup, as we saw. But yes, the point is, if we're being showed that that the Targaryens are lizard people, then we have to assume that is, in this magical world, that's part of this psychic bond with the dragons. But we also are shown that the dragons can choose, and so it's easy to see what's going on. Nettles is a dragon seed, yes, because she rides a dragon. However, she very smartly uses a normal animal training method to get close to the sheep and to get close to Sheep Stealer and gain its trust. Mm-hmm. Now, this is probably a clue about how the original Valyrians would have done it. They would already have the blood of the dragon from the Great Empire of the Dawn. According to Great Empire of the Dawn theory, the Valyrians come from the Great Empire of the Dawn. They were probably created by somebody in the Great Empire of the Dawn. The Great Empire of the Dawn seems to have had dragon control too, because they're building infused stone, right? So that kind of means it all goes back to them. And so, the Valyrians in Valyria, they are probably refugees from the Great Empire of the Dawn who found dragons in Valyria, or maybe that was already a colony there, or whatever. But then after the Empire collapses, they have to bond with these dragons. And we are told that the Valyrians were shepherds. And there's also like Apollo, like mythology that George is clearly drawing from with Rhaegar's harp and all this stuff. So, they probably used sheep. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say, and Nettles has the benefit of having time to do this. She can do this Pavlov's dog training method over the course of days, possibly even weeks, of getting Sheep Stealer used to her, feeding him, getting closer to him. She's not doing it in 15 minutes the way Quentin tried to.
Well, that's why I was saying Quentin needed to figure out who was feeding the dragons and pose as that person or something.
Don't kill food guy.
Can't just run in there with a cage and a bunch of wind blown or whatever. Anyways, so that's enough about Nettles. But I feel very strongly about that. She's definitely a dragon seed. The only reason that people think that she's not is because of her skin color. So I'm just saying, let's not fall into, we know better than that. We know that genetics doesn't always match the outward appearance, and that there's recessive genes and things like that. So let's not do that.
And we need that. And we need that for our main story, because it's what's going to make the Phagon question so good as to whether or not he's able to ride a dragon, or if they're going to go Silver Dennis on him.
Well, we can also talk about the Adam and Alan of Hull thing. They're almost certainly not Laenor's kids. They're almost certainly Corlys's kids. So how's Corlys giving birth to dragon riders?
Well, it's probably through the mother, because we don't know anything about Mouse, their mother. So
could Mouse be a dragon seed? That's counterintuitive. Yeah. I was thinking that the Valerians, being from Valyria, must have latent dragon blood, even though they never rode dragons in Valyria. They must still have the ability to do it.
There is this theory. I'm not sure how true it is. Very tinfoil of me. I like it, but I'm not married to it. Some were saying the reason that the cannibal can never be tamed is that Corlys was always his dragon rider in secret. And that's why, when Corlys is laid to rest, it seems like when the cannibal flies off, it almost salutes him before leaving.
Yeah,
it's a nice idea. It's a nice idea, but I don't think it's true. But but at the same time, I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
The scene is so pregnant, though. It's why did George write the cannibal to give Corlys a flyover like that? We're meant to try to make something of that, surely. Okay, so what are the spoilery things? Yeah, like I was saying. So I tend to think what do you think is going on with the beach meeting here? So do you think Because
Well,
like
again,
this is weird. Like here's let me frame this. If Adam is claiming, or yeah, Adam of Hull, if Adam is claiming sea smoke at the sowing of the seeds, then this scene doesn't really make sense. This is like I'm Sea Smoke's new rider, and I'm showing up here, and Rhaenyra's got to assess him. Like Rhaenyra's approaching him as though she doesn't know whose side he's on. I guess is what I'm getting to. So I wonder if the way that Adam claims sea smoke might be different and separate from the seeds thing.
Yeah. Because I think the easiest way to make this happen is just to just quickly establish Laenor dies in the Stepstones. The link is broke. So the link is broke. Sea Smoke is a free agent again. And for Adam to then claim Sea Smoke in an event separate from the sowing of the seeds, for him to like literally to do it on his own, because that also would make it. That also gives more mystique to Adam, and which will play in later when Adam goes to the Isle of Faces. That there's something special about this guy if he's able to do it on his own.
It's not Sea Smoke in all caps. Well, then tell me who it is, because it looks like Sea Smoke. I hate it when people do that. I'm sorry, but like if you disagree, then offer up your opinion, but don't act like everyone else is stupid. Who is it? No, it's not Dreamfire. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't look like Dreamfire, first of all. And Dreamfire, that looks exactly like Sea Smoke.
Yeah, it's a gray dragon.
And why would Helena be beating with Rhaenyra and Syrax? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because Dreamfire is purple. That's a gray dragon. It's got a saddle on it, so it can't be Gray Ghost.
Yes.
It's been claimed.
So look at
Sea Smoke. I can't think of any other contender for who that dragon is besides
Sea Smoke. It's that same color gray. The pink is on the underside. It's got that tail that looks like a spiked mace. Okay, see the tail? It's the same style of dragon here. Same tail, same color. People love to try to do this and be like, "Oh, that's Tessarion. That's Meraxes." Like, no, Meraxes is dead. No, it is. I'm sure. I think that's Sea Smoke. I don't see who else it would be. Yes, he does have the spiked tail. We just saw it. Right there. That's the spiked tail. It's the same tail. Same tail.
Yeah, like logically, this seems like Sea Smoke. It's probably Sea Smoke. That's probably Adam. Rhaenyra's probably questioning the whole thing of, who are you? Why do you have Laenor's dragon? Oh, does this mean Laenor's dead? What happened? That's why she's going to have that inquisitive, confused look in the next scene.
Yeah, the pink is in the lower membrane. I don't think we can see the pink from this angle, but there was a super chat back here. Let me get. What if Nettles has a dragon binding horn? She doesn't. We would hear about that. She doesn't need a dragon binding horn. She uses sheep, and she's a dragon seed. So she doesn't have a horn. Those horns make a god-awful sound that you can hear. It fills the whole world. Like, they're not, we would know if she had a horn. I think the biggest contribution from George is to destroy the good versus bad guys we've been led to believe. I don't know if I'd say it that way, but I know what you're getting at.
It could be Laenor if they decide to keep him alive, but I think keeping Laenor alive and having him somehow break the link with Sea Smoke creates more complications than just killing him than just saying he died in the Stepstones and freeing things up for Adam.
And now that's about the right size for Sea Smoke. Sea Smoke is pretty big. So I think that size is right. And that looks like a man there. You can see he doesn't, like, look at Rhaenyra's profile. She's got a bigger coat and it's sort of open. This is a very slim profile. That is a dude.
Yeah, this seems like the introduction of Adam, and then we'll meet Alan, and we'll meet Mouse, and this is when we meet the Hull family, the Adam and Alan of Hull, the Hull family.
It's definitely not Helena and Dreamfire. It's definitely not. Anyway, then we've got. Do we think the dragons got bigger from last season? They look about the same. Yeah, I look about the same. Yeah, I strongly doubt that it's Laenor. Yeah, I guess it's silly to assume that's the person's gender. It just, from here, it looks like the profile of...
I'm just going what I think makes the most logical sense. This seems like this is our introduction scene to Adam of Hull, soon to be later Adam Valerion.
Yeah. Yeah, because we have seen, though, the women do wear like riding coats when they ride the dragons. I mean, I think Bela had one on too, it seemed like. So I don't know. It's mostly what I'm going on. But yeah, it's mostly like the situation of it. That's why I'm saying, like, it doesn't make sense for Helena to go meet with Rhaenyra. That just doesn't make sense.
So super chat from Ford8484. Which episode do you think we'll see Rhaenys fate?
Rook's Rest.
Okay.
Well, that'll probably be towards the end of the season. That's kind of the most dramatic thing that happens.
Yeah. Do you think Rook's Rest will happen this season, or is that another one that's cut to season 3?
No, it has to be this season because it's the next thing. It happens.
I think that's going to be our season finale. Is going to be Rook's Rest.
Yeah, because I was just saying, because after that, Aegon is burned and Aemond takes over. And I just think that would be a great way to end the season. That's with that shot of Aemond looking at the throne and stuff in the throne room. That's probably after Aegon is burned. And they're going to want to have Aegon be king for an entire season. So yeah, the end of the season, I would say Rook's Rest. Aegon is burned.
Yeah, he has his fall from Sunfire. And then we
go into the off season like, oh God, Aemond is going to be in charge. What's going to happen now? That's a good way to leave the season, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe like second to last episode. Probably, but yeah, it could be as early as episode 4. I could see that.
Yeah, Battle of the God's Eye is most likely going to be the season 3 finale. But didn't they say they casted Alice Rivers for this season too?
They did.
Is she confirmed?
They did. So it seems like I mean, she's there when Daemon takes Harrenhal, but she doesn't really do anything until later. They're probably going to play up her role earlier and introduce her. It seems like
the line in the books is that whatever spells she casts to make men fall in love with her doesn't work on Daemon. But yeah, she's there when he arrives at Harrenhal.
What dragon names would make the best band names? Well, Tessarion would be a cool name. And what
Daemon, you're no
style of music? It would all be metal bands. They would all be metal bands. I mean, Vagar. That's a death metal band.
Daemon not simping for no witches.
So, do you have anything more spoilery to say about Rosby and Stokeworth? I mean, literally, they're just pawns that get passed back and forth and chopped down a little bit more each time. That's how I think about them.
Yeah, they're just their hand was forced, and that's why they end up declaring for Aegon. But you could tell they really didn't want to be in on Aegon's side. I mean, most houses would say, "I don't want to fight in a war at all," which is actually what the Tyrells do. In the beginning, they try and stay neutral, and that's what pisses off Aegon so much, and why. Okay, so yeah, because we haven't discussed Kristen Cole becoming Han. Now we know it's going to happen because we see him wearing the chain in the Caesar, but we haven't talked about what leads up to that happening. that's spoiler territory.
Well, basically, isn't it just like he's not satisfied with Otto. Otto's like sending letters and stuff, and he wants to like get down to business, or
Yeah. So it's I want to talk about because it's a great Joffrey and Tywin parallel.
Okay, let me look. Cleo's being awful. I need to go put her back in the room. So let me tee you up on this and turn up the speaker so I can listen. I'm gonna go put her back. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so Aegon and Joffrey, Otto Hightower, and Tywin. So Aegon feels that Otto Hightower is not doing enough. He feels that they're losing the war, they're not gaining support. Rhaenyra's getting the support of all these major houses, and they really have no big names on their side. Otto is doing his best with the letter writing, using diplomacy, trying to get people, but Aegon's like, no, I want action. Which shows to show that he's a young, undisciplined, headstrong king, the way Joffrey was. But the thing is that wars are won with letters just as much as they are on the battlefield, which is something that Tywin says. It's after the Battle of Blackwater when Tywin shows up and he takes his role as hand and Tyrion is pushed back to the wayside. Tyrion shows up and he's having that whole moment with Tywin where he's like, the hand looks good on you, looked better on me. And Tywin's sort of giving him the time of day, but at the same time, he's writing letters. And then he says that, like, wars aren't always won on the battlefield. And this is right before the Red Wedding happens. So upon rewatch, if you go back and you watch that scene knowing the Red Wedding is going to happen, you can assume that that letter that Tywin is writing while Tyrion is sulking is probably one of a series of letters that were going back and forth between him, Walder Frey, and Roose Bolton. Aegon doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand the importance of this. That's why he fires Otto and makes Criston Cole his hand. The line in the book is, "My new hand is a steel fist," because he feels that Criston Cole is going to be a man of action, more in line with what he sees as being the way to go forward, which is go forward through force, through arms, none of this diplomacy, none of this letter writing crap. We're going to win this war. We're going to win this war with swords. That's the way you win a war. Now, whereas Tywin's kind of more like there's a time and a place for swords and there's a time and a place for diplomacy. Otto can see that, but Otto doesn't have the same sort of talent that Tywin does to be able to pull it off. And that's why Aegon is able to kind of force him aside and make a new hand in a way that Joffrey couldn't, because unlike Tywin, like when Joffrey's sitting on the throne and Tywin walks up the stairs and like stares down at him, Otto doesn't have that with his grandson. He's not able to intimidate Aegon the way that Tywin could intimidate Joffrey.
Looking for some Otto. There's only a little bit of Otto. There he is.
Yeah. Yeah, he can't rein Joffrey in. He can't rein Aegon in the way Tywin could rein Joffrey in. He doesn't have that he doesn't have that hard power as well as diplomacy that Tywin was able to pull off.
I definitely read that as something that's meant to make us think that Aegon is foolish. Because it's like, well, who do you think's on the other end of those letters? People with swords and armies. So if you want to go to battle, you need to have allies. And that happens by writing letters. So, yeah, it's definitely one of those things where, Aegon comes off as just impatient and foolish.
Otto doesn't have Tywin's swagger. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tywin doesn't control his kids either, so there's that. I'm so glad to hear that we're getting both Adam and Alan, because it's so interesting how like one brother claims the dragon, the other one tries to claim the dragon, gets burned, and is saved by Adam and Sea Smoke. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, of
Will-
course,
will we-
Alan, who doesn't ride the dragon, ends up marrying Bela. So,
Will we get Grover, Oscar, and Elmo Tully, or is that skirting copyright too much with the Muppet references?
I don't know. I'm not
There's
sure.
also Lord Peter Piper of Pink Maiden, and there's Forrest Frey, the Fool Frey, which is a Forrest Gump reference. So I'm wondering how much HBO is willing to skirt the lines on these other intellectual products.
Yeah, Aegon is not Joffrey. Joffrey is more like Ramsay. Like Ramsay and Joffrey are sadistic. Aegon is not sadistic. He's like lazy and kind of like just unqualified for the job. You know, like he's definitely got, I shouldn't say just lazy. He's more than lazy. Let's be clear. It's very clear in the books. Well, it's as clear as it needs to be that he is essentially raping and abusing serving women. We're told that there's a serving woman that gets pregnant, you know, and it's like, well, how did she have a choice? Probably not. So it's just one of those things. What they did in the show is very true to what's implied in the books. However, I would compare him more to like Aegon the Unworthy. Like if this Aegon had been king, then he probably would have been more like Aegon the Unworthy. Yeah, the fighting pit. See, that was weird to me. That's not in Fire and Blood, is it? Aegon going to watching children fight in like Flea Bottom.
No, well, there's the very unsavory line of that Mushroom has, where he's watching two kids with filed teeth fight over while a very young girl performs acts.
Right, but Aegon
There's
wasn't a
that
part
line.
of that, right?
No, that's the line when they're trying to find Aegon, he's found like in some alley watching two kids fight over like a scrap of meat while that girl performs acts on him. But that's not in an actual fighting pit. That's just like him in an alley watching kids fight. That he
So that's
probably
one of those
paid
mushroom
for.
rumors then.
That's a mushroom rumor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, which some of those are right and some of them are wrong. I
Mushroom
guess the
tells
point is
no
like,
lies.
you know, understand what I'm saying. Not necessarily saying anything exculpatory. I'm just saying he's a different sort of bad king than Joffrey. Like Joffrey is a little more unique. You know what I mean? He's the
also,
kid that's like killing cats and stuff. Okay, so that's a
he's
little
also
different.
Older than
What's that?
He's also older than Joffrey. Joffrey died like if Joffrey had like another 4 years, he probably would have developed into something more like Aegon.
Oh, I think Joffrey would have developed into more like Ramsay if he had had a few years. That's the trajectory I see he was on. So, yeah, and the thing about Aegon is like we've seen his character failings already. But you guys just wait until the end of season 2. By the end of this season, a lot of other characters will have some pretty bad deeds on their hands as well.
Yeah. Because we need to see Aegon drinking a lot. Because the line in the book is he drank and raged and drank. And back in season 1, when we were covering the season 1 episodes, I pointed out in that episode when Aemond claimed Vhagar, I pointed out how many scenes Aegon was drinking. And it's like 4 separate scenes throughout the day where he's just knocking them back until finally Otto Hightower finds him passed out at the bottom of those stairs. Like Aegon is going to has a very serious alcohol problem. They've established that already. And it's only going to get worse through this season as he rages and drinks. And then finally he has that fall. And then he becomes addicted to Milk of the Poppy. So he's going to have all kinds of problems. There's going to be his psychosis, his substance abuse, the pressures of being king. of being a dog that they just put a crown on his head and being off the leash. Like, yeah, Aegon's a loaded gun right now.
Yeah, I think that's right. Like he's what we see mostly him is like that's why I compared him to Aegon the Unworthy, because like his sins are all what's the word I'm looking for? Like sins of the flesh and of desire and things like that. So what are we talking about in the chat here? Yeah, vices. Thank you. That's exactly right. See, like Joffrey's not so much into vices. Like he's into straight up torture. Like he's sadistic and cruel specifically. Exactly right. So it's different. Right. It's I'm not not trying to, like I said, say anything exculpatory about Aegon, but he's not the same character as Joffrey at all. No. And that is what is dramatic about Aegon is after he's injured and hiding for almost a year on Milk of the Poppy, and then he finally comes out of that. And that's when his character really becomes interesting, is that last little stretch that he has there. So that's pretty far down the road, so we don't really need to talk about that. So I love how people just love to argue about the dragons in the preview. It's funny because it doesn't really matter. Like we'll find out, and it'll be sea smoke or it won't be, right? But like,
yeah, like look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll admit I'm wrong. I'm not someone to like dig my claws into the ground and say no, I'm right and you're wrong. But where we are thinking in terms of story, what makes the most logical sense? I think it's Sea Smoke, and I think it's Adam. I think that's what that scene is setting up.
Yeah, I think it's a don't overthink it thing.
When the season premieres,
because you have to remember, like this is a big mystery for people who haven't read Fire and Blood. Like, what's going on with Sea Smoke? What's going on with, who's that riding him? Who's that looking at Sea Smoke? Like, that's all going to be things that people are going to wonder about. I mean, we know the answer, but that's just because we've read Fire and Blood. It's Adam looking at the dragon that he's going to claim, and it's almost certainly Adam meeting with Rhaenyra on the beach. But I think the big mystery is just, like I said, how he's going to claim it. Is it going to be part of the sowing of the seeds, or is it going to be some more unique thing? Because Adam is such an interesting character, like you were saying, visiting the God's Eye before that battle. I mean, what are they going to do with that?
Yeah, there's some, and that's why I think if I'm right about about Alicent, that's a dream sequence of her being on the God's Eye. It makes a great setup for when Adam does it for real.
Yeah. And Daemon, I do not understand why people think that Daemon could be a green seer. That one baffles me. Tim, maybe you could tell me if I'm missing something. Like, I know there's a rumor that he didn't die and that maybe he survived on the Isle of Faces, but like, he's a Targaryen. He doesn't have green seer blood. Like, you have to go back several generations, and it's like House Massey, which is just like a random first man house that doesn't have any green seer clues or anything like that. I just don't
because
see that.
aside from like House Massey, the bloodline that leads to Daemon is mostly Targaryen and Valerion, like that. It doesn't the marriage doesn't really change hands very much leading up to Daemon. In fact, like really, it's more Viserys marrying an Aeron and Daemon marrying a Royce is actually one of the first times we really actually see them starting to branch out. The only other times we see that is with Jaehaerys' kids, and that's only because he has so many. But his oldest kids, the ones that were going to be his heirs, were the ones that were either were marrying siblings. It's only the ones that are really far down the line of succession that marry, like the daughter who marries, is it Is it Manderley that she marries?
I don't know. I agree with
I
Minty in
don't.
the chat, though, who says that Daemon is the targiest targ out there. And this is kind of what I
That's
mean by,
true.
like, being true to the character. Nettles is not a child of the forest because that would kind of erase who Nettles appears to be, and then the character doesn't make sense anymore. Like, Daemon is a dragon. Bloodraven is not Daemon. Like, Bloodraven is doing a total information awareness network thing, just like a Greenseer would, as Hand of the King. So his real life mimics and mirrors his Greenseer life, and there's all these parallels between them. He's using Weirwood magic and Weirwood arrows and Weirwood bows and all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, Bloodraven embraces his Blackwood heritage a lot more than his Targaryen heritage when you think about it.
All right, and the Blackwoods aren't a random First Man house. They're a very significantly Weirwood associated First Man house. Like, its attention is called to it. So, yeah, I don't see any evidence that Daemon could be north of the wall from the God's Eye, or that he could be a Greenseer, or any of that. His character's done enough. Doesn't need to be a Greenseer also. Like, that baffles me, that theory. But you guys know me. I'm very skeptical on most theories. It takes a lot to get me on board, especially if it's a secret. Oh, this person's still alive, or this person is really someone else. It's a high bar to clear for me. I think almost all those theories are wrong. But that's boring. Let's not talk about that. Let's keep going through the trailer. So, do you have anything spoilery to say about this whole northern arc with Cregan? Is Sarah Snow gonna... I have to think they're gonna do something with the Sarah Snow story. That's too interesting not to use.
Going back to my demonetizing line about the premature White Walker, yeah, we can. This is where we can talk about Jace and Sarah Snow, and how I said, like, if we get any kind of White Walker scene, I could see it being like a rustle in the background where they see Jace, they see Sarah, and they're like, oh, soon, this is our moment. It's about to happen. It's finally about to happen. But no. Premature, went off too early. You're not going to get that for another century or so. I'm sorry.
I would think it would be something a lot more like he goes to Winterfell and they receive message from the Night's Watch that whites have been sighted, or something is going on at the wall, an incursion from the king beyond the wall. And so Jace, being on hand, wanting to win Cregan's loyalty, offers to go with him to go check it out. So they fly up to the wall and encounter some I would guess whites and not White Walkers. White Walkers would be like too much.
And we have a moment of his dragon refusing to go across the wall the way good Queen Ali's did. That'd be a nice touch.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So maybe he goes north of the wall on foot like Jaehaerys and Alysanne did and sees some whites. Maybe they are maybe that's, this is what I could believe is here. They're north of the wall in the haunted forest right here, maybe. And they're set upon by some whites. Something like that. I definitely think they're going to do something like this, guys. I don't know what it'll be, but the point of it is obvious, to like play up the importance of the prophecy. Because why are Cregan and Jace doing this pact of ice and fire thing? Like, Cregan rides so hard for Rhaenyra's side when he comes down at the end. And so we got to see that set up here. Like, they have a strong bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it could be as simple as that, like a hint of a white or even a White Walker, and it's just like I sense a disturbance in the force. Like, that's the moment, and that could be our White Walker thing.
Yeah, because remember, the dragons are very psychic, so they can sense when other dragons are around. They could sense if there's whites potentially near the wall. I could see something like that. Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, you're right to bring up the whole dragons not flying over the wall thing. Like, that would be too weird to show us dragons all of a sudden flying. Like, George has just gone out of his way to show us with Alysanne that dragons either don't want to or can't fly over the wall. So having set that up, I wouldn't expect to see that broken. If anything, that'll be reinforced. And Jace might go north on foot. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, unlike D&D's version of events where the dragons have Drogon goes over the wall, no problem. The dragons have fast pass. The ravens are all on steroids. Everyone's just teleporting everywhere. Nah, I think going George's route with the dragon, it's not that easy to get dragons over the wall. They either can or they won't. Seems the better method.
So there's several reasons to play up this part. One, the Starks, like I said, Cregan has a big role at the end, but not before then. So if you're going to have it mean, for TV shows, you want to have more continuity. If you're going to have the Starks be a big part of the end of the series, you want them to do something in the middle too. And Cregan is such a fun character. So it makes just too much sense to play this all up. We, the audience, we love the Starks. We know them from the other show. Right? Right, guys? It's familiar. It's a tie-in. So, yeah, I definitely think going, not just Winterfell, them going to the wall makes a lot of sense. It ties in the prophecy, it brings the Starks in, and it sets up the Hour of the Wolf, which will be righteous when it happens. So, anything else to say about this?
No, I think I'm sticking with my God's Eye dream that this is going to be, and like I said, probably either after an encounter, either with something that happens with Helena or something that happens with Lara Strong, is probably going to be the thing that triggers her to have a dream like that. It remains to be seen, but that's what I feel. I feel like that would be a good storytelling method to do that.
She looks like someone in a dream trying to interpret something. Like, what am I seeing? It's a dream face. Yeah, I really think so. But this is new. Obviously, the Maesters don't know anything about Alicent's dreams. So there's nothing about that in Fire and Blood. So this does seem to be the same scene. I know sometimes they trick you with that, but she's standing in front of Syrax about the same distance as in this shot on a beach. So I have to believe that's the same shot. The question is who is the other person, but I don't want to keep going over that. It's got to be Adam. So this would be probably after Blood and Cheese. I just said after a funeral or some death or whatever, but this is almost certainly after Blood and Cheese, showing us Helena's maddened, grief-stricken state or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's not much else to say about that.
Yeah, because it depends on because in the books after the Blood and Cheese event, Helena's basically kind of just written out. It's almost like she goes catatonic, which I don't think the show is gonna. I mean, the show's definitely gonna have her grieve. But I don't think they're just gonna have her. Okay, you just go into this room, and we're just not gonna worry about you the way the book did. I think they're definitely gonna have more characterization and have moments of checking in on her to see what's going on.
I think she'll continue to have dreams and visions and say things to people that make people do things or act things. We're not just gonna see her catatonic.
Yeah.
She's going to continue to have visions and stuff.
She's going to be muttering things in the corner, and we're going to be like, "Ooh, cryptic."
She's going to be like a messed up oracle, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a funeral veil right there. That's not scars. That's a veil. And then okay, again, with Rosby and Stokeworth, what happens exactly in the books?
Okay, so in the book, Rosby and Stokeworth are made to join Aegon, and Criston Cole takes them out and is like, okay, you swear your allegiance, prove it. And that's when he takes them out onto their first battle. And that's where we get the battles of the Burning Mill and the battles of Stonehenge, where they join up with the Brackens. And those end up being some pretty heavy losses.
Yep. So I got a PayPal from Kelly Johnson. It says, discuss the pitfalls of inherited absolute power, aka the divine right of kings. Especially when a war of succession begins, absolute obedience is required just at the lord level, never mind the royal. Who is wrong in a war of princes when they all share the same blood? So one thing that I always try to, when I talk about this stuff, the way that I think it should be framed is outside the context of specific rules of feudalism. Because, to start with anyway, because with any power structure, any form of government, just be the leader of a book club, doesn't matter. The person in power has a duty to the people they have power over. Like, as humans, we all are equal. We all have like the same right to life and liberty and all that stuff that people have come about to agree upon. But sometimes leadership is needed. And so we elect leaders, or we appoint leaders, or we submit to leaders. But just because somebody is in control, when you say absolute obedience is required, well, what's just as much required is for the person in power to wield that power in a way that benefits the people under them. Because if they don't do that, then they are failing at the inherent responsibility of their job. And when that happens, you get rebellion. And then it just depends on the context of the political system, how that rebellion happens. In capitalism, we stop buying stuff sometimes. Okay? In feudalism, they walk up the hill and attack the castle with pitchforks. That's the pitchfork mob. The pitchfork mob is a saying. It comes from a ruler abusing his power, whether it's a mayor or some sort of feudal lord. That's the whole point. So when we talk about, at the end of the day, they're arguing about who's in charge, whose right it is to the throne. And I always kind of say, well, the first thing we have to conclude is that it doesn't really matter who sits on the throne. What matters is that whoever sits on the throne does a good job of protecting the realm, the common folk. So if the high lords are fighting and the common people are suffering, then it's kind of like everybody gets an F. And so that's my first conclusion about this whole thing, is that neither side is without blame. And at the end of the day, they are all failing at their responsibility to keep the realm stable. By definition, they let the thing break out into civil war. There are things that both sides could have done to prevent war, and they didn't do it. And that's how we get a war. So, Tim, I've talked long enough, but yeah, what do you have to add to the whole idea of the divine right of kings and how we're supposed to think about the succession and the rights of Rhaenyra versus Alicent and Aegon and all that stuff?
Yeah. So, well, first I want to make a correction. I was wrong about where the Rosbys and Stokeworths are. It's not Stonehenge or Burning Mill. Those are Bracken losses. It's the sack of Duskendale, because that's when Criston Cole is marching them out of the Crownlands. That's when he's like, okay, you swore your loyalty, now prove it. And he forces the Rosbys and the Stokeworths in as the first attack wave to sack Duskendale. So,
okay.
Error on my part, bad keeper of the knowledge, Tim. Now, so focusing on your question.
So what dragon would that be involved with those? Vhagar? Is that Aemond and Vhagar, stiffening the backs? Is there a dragon at the Duskendale fight? I don't think there is, right?
In addition to dragons, Aegon. First they reach Rosby, and having secured their submission, Aegon hosts pass bloodlessly through both castles. In addition to dragons, Aegon and Criston Cole marched out of King's Landing with Duskenwald. Yeah, most of the house. Yeah, Aegon's there, so that would actually be Sunfire.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
because
that's interesting.
when Aegon, because Aegon's one of those ones who's like he wants to be when he sacks when he fires Otto and makes Kristen Cole his hand. He's also like he's also pretty dead set on being in the fights and overseeing things up until his injury. So that actually could be Sunfire if this is the sack of Duskendale. There were no dragons at Duskendale.
But Aegon is with Kristen at that point, you're saying? I don't remember that.
Lord Gunther Darkland. I don't know, because this is the thing with the show, because like we don't know what events they're gonna take liberty with and rewrite. So I mean, I could be wrong about everything. In the show, I mean, in the book, the Rosby Stokeworth thing is definitely the sack of Duskendale, but chat's saying there are no dragons at Duskendale. But that also could be the showrunners might write it in that there was one.
Yeah, that's the thing is like we really don't know what dragon is going to be at places like that. It's something they could easily add.
Yeah.
But those are definitely Stokeworth and Rosby soldiers there getting burned. And that lends to what I'm saying is that this camera angle, this is a dragon flying behind Kristen. So I would think this is one of the dragons on the green side. That was...
Yeah. I think I need to go back to your question. I think we're splitting hairs here because this is all depending on what liberties they take when adapting the story. If they're going to mesh and merge events.
Yep. Just real quick. When you say that Daemon is a Night King, if we're talking about the show, he can't be because that vision that Bran saw was a long time in the past. It's the same tree that we see later in the north that's all frozen over. And when the Night King is made against that tree by the Children of the Forest, it's not frozen. So I don't think that would have been... Also, we saw the person. It wasn't Daemon. It was some other dude. It very clearly was not meant to be a Valyrian. Obviously, it wasn't the actor, Matt Smith, but it wasn't somebody that was meant to look Valyrian. So... And then in the books, the only Night's King that we hear of is from the Age of Heroes 8,000 years ago. So in neither books nor the show can Daemon be Night King in any sense. I'm not sure what the idea is behind that, but no, it can't. That's not possible. As far as I can figure.
Some of the chat are saying maybe that's Rook's Rest. Yeah, because Stokeworth and Kristen Cole's there, so he would take whatever remaining Stokeworth and Rosby men he has with him to Rook's Rest. So that could be Rhaenys and Meleys doing the burning there.
Yeah, because again, you see battles like these could be two different battles. It looks all like the same thing to me because there's trees here. These are two angles of the same shot. And so that looks like the same type of forest. Daemon's his cold hands. Now, Daemon is just Daemon. He doesn't need to be anybody else. That's a full plate, being Daemon Targaryen. So, is there any way that Baela could be witnessing Rook's Rest? Like, what would she be screaming at like this? Let's put the sound on for a second. Hang on, Tim. Let's listen to this.
Dragons.
It's a really good scream, dude.
A war so bloody as a war between dragons.
I mean, that would make, if that's Rook's Rest, it would definitely make sense if she just saw her grandma go down.
Yeah, so like, was she maybe at the battle and flew away safely? Or like, that's kind of, again, a departure from the book canon if she's anywhere near that battle.
But if they're going to expand her role, just like they're expanding Rhaenyra's role, then writing her into places where she originally wasn't would be.
But that's what that means. Like, if you're going to give her stuff to do, she's going to turn up in scenes where you don't expect. Yeah, like Sea Smoke wasn't originally at the Stepstones in the books, right? And they added that for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because that's the way it established a character. So yeah, you might see something like that. Now, this is one of the. This looks like Rhaenyra's about to take King's Landing, but that's definitely not going to be in season 2. So it must be something else. Do you think dragons maybe just flew over King's Landing and people are scared that Rhaenyra's going to take the city and they're just going to sort of build that up until she actually does? Or
Yeah,
the whole city's panicking.
Yeah. This could be, yeah, it could, or it could be like, yeah, just tensions are rising. Nobody knows what's going on. That could be, maybe it's the aftermath of. No, that wouldn't be the aftermath of Aegon's coronation. Too much time's passed. I'm not sure because I mean, this is such a powder keg. It's not going to take much to trigger something like this happening, especially in King's Landing.
Yeah, I don't. This to me matches the populace panicking because they think someone's about to take the city. But that just doesn't happen. Could they move that up? I don't see how. So many things have to happen before that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like after Aemond is in charge, after Aegon is burned, Aemond takes over, and then he marches up to Harrenhal, and then Daemon leaves Harrenhal, and they come and take King's Landing. That's all season 3 stuff. So I'm not sure what this is. That's crazy that some dude is putting their hands on Alicent in streets like that. I'm offended. Take your dirty, grubby hands off the queen. Nah, but for real. Like who? That just looks like some schmuck. Like just some dude. Look at that hat. He's got that hat like people that's like the Frey hat. People are always up to no good when they wear that hat. Come here, queen. Look at chop his arm off, dude. Where's the hound when you need him?
Yeah, the people saying just a little food riot. Yeah, it could be because again, that Valerian blockade is going to hit somewhere. It's going to hit. If food's not coming in because of the blockade.
Yeah, well, you can't eat the queen. Sir, this is not, you cannot eat the queen. All right, well, we'll have to find out. This feels like a wrinkle that's different. This feels like something that's going to surprise us. Which
that's Forrest Frey. Run, Forrest, run.
But that's the thing is in the books can just leave a character be until it needs to use them again. And the show can't do that. This is what I was trying to say. That's maybe the best way to say it. Like in the books, it's like, well, Alicent was just in King's Landing for a while until, everything showed up at her doorstep. Well, what was she doing all that time? So apparently handling some riots. And this has to be a Bracken thing here. Can't really say much about it. It looks like he's surprising some travelers on the road with a sword. That was my interpretation, but who knows? Are they trying to? No, just grabbing her arm. Doesn't look like he's going for a purse. Just grabbing her arm, yeah. I don't even want to talk about this. I mean, what is there to say? It's going to happen. It's going to be really awful, and we'll deal with it when it happens, I guess, right?
Some kid's gonna die tonight. That's what's gonna happen.
I hope it's not the first episode. That would suck for the first post-game show to be like, well.
People were saying, what if it's the cold open?
That's the coldest of opens. No, they'd lose too many viewers. You don't
set the tone for the whole season.
I don't think you do that. I still haven't watched the first episode of Black Mirror because I've heard so much about it that makes me not want to watch it. I've seen other episodes, but not that one. Anyway, It'll probably be the second one. It might be the end of the first one. God. Come to my live stream. It'll be fun.
I think end of episode 2 seems to make some sense to me.
They were saying he kind of looks like Gren on Tony's stream. I get that. It's like, why is Gren trying to kill Helena?
Yeah.
A Son for a Son is that the first episode? It's called A Son for a Son? That's not good.
Oh, jeez. Have the names of the episodes leaked?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh. So maybe end of episode 1. It can't be the cold open though. But maybe
I don't even know if that's a leak. It'd be the end of the episode. Oh God. Oh, we're gonna have to deal with that. That's great. I'm just gonna have to be trying to convince people to keep watching the show. People are gonna be like, I'm out. That's enough. Oi.
I can only... God, I'm imagining my mom's reaction. I sent her the teaser because she loved the show and she watches it with me. And I have to tell her, like, Mom, you can't ask me questions. I need to pay attention.
So Jenny says she's never watched The Red Wedding. I've never watched Shireen's death. I've never watched that. So I feel
the first time when I was watching, because I had already seen the show, so when my mom got into the show, when we got to the Red Wedding episode, I was no longer watching the TV. I was watching her watch the TV, waiting to see her reaction.
Daniel's saying maybe the end of episode 1 will be Daemon telling Blood and Cheese A Son for a Son. Kind of like George called the 5th book A Dance with Dragons, because it's setting up a conflict between dragon lords that actually does not happen during that book. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's why I haven't watched it. And I wouldn't recommend watching The Red Wedding either. They did a more garish version of it than was necessary. They took something horrible and made it even worse. So I didn't appreciate that. Okay, so yeah, we've beaten this scene to death, really, Tim. I don't think we need to. It's like beating a dead horse. To keep talking about it. So, do you think this is Eric and Arik? I think so.
Yeah, when Arik has to go all secret agent man. But if he made it to the bedchamber, then that means that he got deeper into Dragonstone than he probably should have. He got pretty far in if he made it to the bedchamber before running into his brother and the disguise being dropped.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many conflicting stories about how that went, though. So really, that's one of the biggest choose your own adventures. All we know is that they killed each other somehow. But yeah, I have a feeling they'd let that they're gonna make a dramatic thing out of that, because they've done a good job of building up those characters by showing their split last year, and the actor is compelling. So I think this will be a surprisingly gut-wrenching scene when this goes down, actually. Yeah. I bet this will be kind of like the Oberyn and Mountain thing that catches people by surprise.
Yeah. This is another one of those, like, we're not sure how it could go because we're given different versions of events. One story says they fought for over an hour and proclaimed their love for one another as brothers. But then Mushroom's version of event is that they call each other traitor and the fight only lasts seconds. So we'll have to see. I mean, obviously they can't fight for an hour straight, but might be longer than what Mushroom says.
Yeah, I think they'll at least make it something dramatic. Maybe not an hour, but yeah. And I agree with Northern Tommy in the chat. And let's see here. So this could be any scene with Aemond. Who knows? It's just Aemond riding the dragon. He's awesome. He's everything you could want. He's like Captain No. He's just anti everything. He's great. He's great. He's going to do a little genocide too. So, just, you know, a lot of people are going to do that, by the way. There's going to be some atrocities coming. Let's see. And Rhaenyra. Man, she just looks pissed. This has got to be her going to Storm's End. And Nana. There she is. So, chat, questions. Any specific questions that I may have missed or that you would like to know about? Tim, do you have any discussion points that we did not get to that you would like to cover before we check out of here?
Just, it's really more questions of who have we yet to see, because we have confirmation that Alice Rivers has been casted, but we didn't see anything in the teaser, so not sure what she's gonna do. I did say that the Triarchy is still kicking about. We did get in season 1, Laenor did bring up Recalio Rendoon when he brings up a giant who dyes his beard purple and dresses in women's frocks. So we might get Recalio Rendoon. That's up in the air too. I'm super excited. I can't wait for the season. I'm excited to see what they do. Even with I'm interested in seeing what liberties they take, especially since we're expanding Rhaenyra and Baela's role. Like we're never going to get a 1-to-1 comparison from the books, especially since with a choose your own adventure with our 3 different perspectives. But I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so here's a good question here. Do you think the showrunners will change the timeline so that Cregan versus Bernard Stark is another theater of war? And, you know, as opposed to taking place a few years before, as like a little bit of inner Stark conflict. That's an interesting idea, but I think that the way they're going to expand that plot line is mostly by involving a trip north to see whites and stuff. And then there's the whole Sarah Snow thing, too. So I think there's enough there. And I'm not sure why, Pomshka, why you keep asking about Helena not paying attention to her kids. I mean, that's just the kind of thing we're not really going to hear about much. You know, it's like not very exciting to hear somebody just taking care of a 2-year-old. I don't know. I mean, just have to assume that she did. It's only after Blood and Cheese that it's like she couldn't look at Maelor anymore because she had chosen him to die. But other than that, I'm not quite sure what you're getting at. Do I think the outcome of the dance will change? No. No, they're following the script. And no one really wins anyway. That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, if you were to try to say who won, we would sit here and argue about it. Like it's not even clear. Everyone lost. By the time someone is sitting on the throne, everyone else is dead.
Yeah, it's like...
What do you think about not including Mushroom? I think they said that he was in the background, and then we saw one of the musicians was a little person. So I think we were left to assume that he was in the band. I think he's just laying around. They'll use him a little bit. If, you know... He gets more involved with the plot later on. So we'll see. We'll see if that goes, if they use that or not.
I mean, if they included Mushroom, then they'd have to go the route that Mushroom was right about everything, and we get the most unsavory story possible.
Well, it would be funny to see like some tiny bit interaction that he has with Rhaenyra, and then to realize that he played all that up into like being her counselor and the secret power behind the throne, and like really like he served her cheese one time or something. Like that would be funny. Thank you, Pomshka. Appreciate that. No, I think Mailer will be there because they cast Rickard Thorne.
Yeah.
Right? And he's the one
'Cause
that
that's
escapes
Rickard-
with Maelor.
Yeah, the event at Bitterbridge is Rickard Thorne's big moment, so they wouldn't cast him if they weren't going to do him and Maelor at Bitterbridge.
Yeah. So far, I see no reason. No characters have been cut so far, and I don't think that any of the important ones will be. But
Also, because Maelor has to be
hold
there.
on. We've got a Team Green stan, which I appreciate because there's not as many of those. Everyone lost his Team Black's favorite line simply because Rhaenyra lost against Aegon. I mean, I guess Aegon got assassinated like 6 months later, and his line didn't sit on the throne. It was Rhaenyra and Daemon's children that ultimately sat on the throne and continued on the line of Targaryen. Aegon's line doesn't go anywhere. So, are you saying he won because he sat on the throne for like 6 months before getting assassinated in his royal sedan? Like, okay. That's why I say nobody really won.
Yeah.
I'm for neither team except for Team Smallfolk. So it's definitely not copium coming from me. That is my assessment. That nobody really won. Everyone did lose. Yes, I do feel like everyone lost. They lost a lot of family members and body parts and skin and limbs and all kinds of things. So,
Team
no,
Black
you're
losses.
not wrong. Male primogeniture is what won. That's wrong. That's correct.
Yeah. Daemon's son sits the throne, not his daughter's.
No, the fish feed. The gullet is before the fish feed. The fish feed is after Rook's Rest. So that's not going to be season 2.
Yeah, because the fish feed is after the North finally arrives, and it takes the North a while to get there.
Yeah, saying that no one won or observing that no one won is kind of like the point of the war, is that it's futile and vain. It's a vanity. So I think that's actually that's what we're supposed to take away, is that nobody really won by doing that.
Yeah.
You often discuss mythology and symbolism in A Song of Ice and Fire. I do. What do you see in House of the Dragon? They do a lot of good visual storytelling through symbolism. They did some really good stuff with young Rhaenyra in episode 3 or 4 that I made a big deal out of. So I definitely think they are doing a lot of good visual storytelling. It is not the same kind of symbolism as what I'm talking about in the books. It's a different medium. But like I said, there is a thread that I saw that was showing all the like the Renaissance paintings that they have used for inspirations for some of these scenes, which I think is really interesting. So it's more art history, but it's kind of similar. Mostly like, with a show, what you're trying to do is the things that are around the characters, the symbols, the things that are operating as symbols, you want them to be contributing to the story that you're telling. That's what I mean by visual storytelling. So, yeah. I mean, the White Stag is less subtle. There was some more subtle stuff. Like Daemon tossing Rhaenyra the dragon's egg, for example, and her catching it. It shows a lot of the dynamics of their relationship. Daemon is careless. Rhaenyra sometimes is left holding the bag for that, but she catches it. And then it's also like sort of a hint that their line is going to continue the house. Like it's a very impregnation, sort of a metaphor there. And then later we see that they do get married and have children. So that's visual storytelling. Also, yeah, there was a bunch of stuff with Rhaenyra on the bridge. I forget all of it, but my video on that one is up on the YouTube channel. Do you think we'll see any flashbacks? The thing that you would make sense for a flashback would be Jace and Rhaenyra talking about the prophecy before Jace left for Winterfell. So if they're going to do dreams, I guess they could do flashbacks too. But they haven't yet. So we'll see. Oh yeah, that's right. Rhaenyra dancing with Laenor, Harwin, and then Daemon during her wedding. Yeah, that was great visual storytelling. Good example. That whole dance. The way that Laenor and Rhaenyra danced with a lot of distance, whereas Daemon and Rhaenyra are dancing very close. The dance they're doing, there was a lot of visual storytelling. That was dope for sure. Cool. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. It's been a solid 3 hours plus. Mm-hmm. Again, please watch my Ironborn videos that I put out this week. Empire of the Grey King and Driftwood Kings. And there is... Oh, no, they have not cut Daeron. There is... Daeron is definitely in the show. And what was I going to say? Oh, there's one more video. Yes. One more video from our live stream. It's the one where we talk about the sea stone chair. Tim, there was a really funny comment on my channel. There was this one person, apparently, watching my content only for Deep One's content and is annoyed that we are not talking about the Deep Ones enough. It's almost as if I don't want to talk about the Deep Ones, he says.
It's not that we don't want to talk about the Deep Ones. It's just that that stream went on for more than 4 hours. If you had let me off my leash, rein free to bring all the Deep One stuff into it, there would have been no end. We would have been talking all night long. No, it's not that we didn't want to talk about it. It's just the Deep One stuff had to be reined in for that one.
Well, so here's how I
It still crept in though.
It
still crept in. It's unavoidable.
Well, it's like I understand because every time it came up, we're like, but we're not talking about the Deep Ones today. And that's the thing, is because we talk about them a lot. Like, we really do talk about the Deep Ones here. And so what I figured out, I was talking to Maynard James Plum, and I was like, this guy is a total Deep Ones fiend. And he watches my channel because this is the place where he can find the most Deep Ones content on YouTube. But it's not anywhere near enough. So I'm the one that gets his complaints because I'm the only one that is even talking about the Deep Ones. So like you and I and one other person. But like, it's not enough, Tim. So the point is, there is one more video from the live stream. We do talk about the Sea Stone chair a lot more. So you guys have to tell me, should I release the Kraken? Should I release this last live stream? You guys got to promise to watch it though. If I go to the trouble to editing it and putting it out, it's going to be like an hour and 15 minutes of Ironborn. You guys, I don't know, you might be sick of the Ironborn. So, I mean...
No, they got to hear that scene I painted about Euron drowning.
To be honest with you, Tim, I was thinking to not even put that in there because I want to go back to... I feel like we're going to go back to that in more detail soon.
Okay. But,
and I feel like we were letting the cat out of the bag too soon.
If you want me to insert some Deep One stuff here in Fire and Blood in House of the Dragon, I don't think they're going to... it's probably something they're going to gloss over in the show. Maybe, but I can hold out hope. But in the book, at least, after Jace secures the veil, before he goes to the north, he stops at the Three Sisters, and he gets Lord Burrell and Lord Sunderland to swear fealty to Rhaenyra too.
He does.
So Team Black does have they have Squisher support from the Three Sisters, and of course both sides are courting Dalton Greyjoy.
I guess that does make Rhaenyra's side the just side. She has the Squisher support.
She has the Squisher support.
Yeah. Cool, guys. Well, thanks for coming out. I really appreciate y'all. I'm going to go get some food. Take care of my birds. But, yeah, I'll probably put out that other Ironborn video this week, I guess. Probably on, like, Wednesday. And then, yeah, I'll see you next Sunday. I guess we'll do Tywin next Sunday, but who knows? If they hit us with more House of the Dragon stuff, we'll have to see. All right, guys. Take care. And I'll talk to you soon.